All right, it is 5:30 p.m. and I am going to call this school board work session to order. The school board would like to take this moment to respectfully acknowledge that we are residing on the traditional land of the Dene people. Our mission statement: as a community, we create supportive learning environments where all students thrive. Ms. Richardson, will you please take the roll?
Miss Carol Hubbard,
Here.
Mr. Dorn,
Here.
Miss Julian,
Here.
Miss Maple,
Here.
Miss Hull is on Zoom. She is on Zoom. Miss Hewitt.
Here.
And Mr. Burgess.
Here. Quickly, Ms. Hull, could you go off mute and acknowledge that you are able
Yes,
to
I
hear
am
us
here.
and speak? Okay, thank
I'm
you.
here.
Okay, we can hear you too. Thanks. Before we get started with the next agenda item, which is the Two Rivers Homestead Charter presentation, I did want to just take a minute to talk about your microphones and procedures here. This is a work session. We're gonna we're gonna hear a presentation, and then there will be questions from the board. When it comes to mics, this distance here is about appropriate, about 6 inches. You get too far away or you go too far to the side of your mic and we won't be able to hear you, and the listening public won't be able to hear you. So please keep that in mind, and please turn off your mics when you are not speaking to avoid interference. Also, if you do have to move your mic, I'm sure Jasmine would appreciate it if you do that by picking it up by the base rather than the stem. Does that cover it? Okay. All right, and we will go ahead and get started with the Two Rivers Homestead Charter presentation with questions and answers. Is there anything? We'll pass it to the Two Rivers APC, Ms. Wick.
Thank you for having us. Is that a good distance? All right. Thank you for meeting with us tonight. We're very excited to present this charter with you. I want to begin by saying how proud I am of the people around me. I'm the resident crier, so that will be me. But this process has really been a labor of love for all of us. Our team is a group of parents and educators and community members that have really drawn upon our individual strengths and perspectives from our own walks of life to contribute to this charter. So we recognize that this became a hypothetical idea about 2 years ago. And Webster's says that something hypothetical moves to a theory when there's work put into it. And so tonight, we're here to talk about the work that went into this to really shape it into something real. We have a vision for a very viable school, something that's tangible, and we have some out-of-the-box ideas. We recognize that, and we appreciate your grace when we talk about those. We also have some ideas that are just flat out rooted in common sense, and we look to your guidance on those for policy, because we are seeing those thought processes through the lens of parents, educators, homesteaders, and community members. So our approach is really built around our community and the needs of individuals within Fairbanks. It's our shared belief that education can and should reflect the family's values that it serves. Above all else, for me tonight, my goal is that you guys leave here with a really great sense of who you're talking to and who you're thinking about working with. You guys have the charter application. You know the details that are in it. But more than anything else, I want you to know who you're getting if you say yes. What are you signing up for? We're ready to work with you, and we're ready to bring something meaningful to life for our students and the families of Fairbanks.
not so long ago, Miss Allison Wild, who's in the audience today, she had us all in the gym at Two Rivers, and she introduced us to something she called professional norms. She is a dedicated educator and has a deep passion for learning and community. And when she shared these norms with us, it resonated. And we would like to honor her influence by reaffirming our commitment to these guiding principles and the professionalism they represent. Caitlin.
Allow us to set the stage tonight with our first norm, openness. We gather here today from different walks of life, approaching this process with an open mind and a willingness to consider new ideas. We practice transparency and communication, share thoughts honestly, and embrace feedback. Listening, a gentle reminder to actively listen to others, intending to understand, not just respond. Allow all voices to be heard, especially those with different perspectives. Patience. Remember, change and innovation take time. We're here out of respect for the process, allowing a space for discussion and recognizing that process happens step by step. And the most valuable norm tonight is empathy. It is important to acknowledge that everyone comes from a place of passion and care for our schools, students, and district. Today, we assume we assume positive intent, offer support for one another, and recognize this is an emotional journey for everyone. I would like to thank those present today in person and on Zoom for their time given to our charter application. The members of our APC and guest speaker will now introduce themselves.
So, hi, I'm Jasmine Wicks. I am the president of our APC. I'm a parent. I am a homesteader. I graduated from the University of Southern Mississippi. I have a bachelor's in psychology. Professionally, I am a birth doula with Doulas of North America International. I have a specialty in VBAC mamas. And because of that, I resonate as a women's health advocate. So I guess educational advocacy was the next step. I'm the daughter of seventh generation farmers. Oh, I'm gonna cry. Should have left that part out. Anyway, my kids go to a charter here in Fairbanks. Popcorn summer. I just had to get it out of my system. We're good.
Hi, I'm Summer McMillan, and many of you have seen me before in previous board meetings. I am the vice president of the APC and the Military Special Interest Council representative. I'm a military spouse, a mom of 3. And this year I am a first-time homeschool mama using BEST. I grew up on a farm, a family farm of similar to Jasmine. We had 5 generations. And that's where my love of homesteading and hands-on learning began. I've been an educational advocate across the country for many years. My oldest child being 23, so I've had many years in school, many different school districts. I'm deeply passionate about education that meets children where they are. After 3 years here, my family is proud to call Two Rivers home, and we're excited for it to be our forever home when my husband retires soon. I'm deeply, deeply passionate about fiscal responsibility, oversight, and accountability.
Hello, I'm Caitlin Freeman, our APC secretary, a wife of a veteran, homeschooling mother of 5, the former Two Rivers health assistant, and current school district employee. I am a UAF graduate with a degree in biology and early childhood education. I'll talk by the end of the night, I promise. I grew up in LA, but out of the 6 states we've raised our family in, Two Rivers made it easy to call Alaska home.
Hello, my name's Chelsea Davis. I'm a born and raised Alaskan. I've lived in the Fairbanks North Star Borough my whole life. I have a bachelor's degree in business administration from UAF with a concentration in marketing and an additional minor in art. I am a mother, and our family currently resides on our third generation homestead. Um, I'm also a small business owner where my company revolves around horticulture, as well as um, a former district employee where I worked as the program and event coordinator at Two Rivers, helping to develop and run the homestead and after school programs the past couple years. I'm also the parent community engagement specialist within our APC, as well as the graphic designer. I have many ties to the land in this community and am proud and honored to be here today with this team to present to you something we have all worked really hard on. We appreciate your time and I hope you enjoy the presentation. Thank you.
Does anyone know if Miss Christine has logged on yet? Okay, she's the next person to speak.
Hi, my name is Christine White, and I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much. I'm proud to have been a Two Rivers Timberwolf. I am also a parent of two beautiful boys. I'm a fully certified teacher with a degree in elementary education from Arizona State. I'm a small business owner of a small tutoring business, and I'm the curriculum subcommittee lead. And next to me, my husband, he also helped greatly with this application, but isn't on the APC, but he will be speaking tonight, and I'd like to allow him to introduce himself.
Hi there, my name is John White. In addition to being Christine's husband and her small business secretary, bookkeeper, I'll say, I am an IT compliance and security specialist. I'm also graduated from Arizona State University with Christine. In addition to that, I am a volunteer coach for multiple sports for our boys, as well as a volunteer music teacher. I'm here to support the team as best I can.
Hello, is it on? There we go. A little close. I feel like I'm eating this thing. I'm Sam Barney. I know most of you. I'm a certified teacher and the ex officio member of the APC. And I grew up out in Two Rivers, went to school there, reside there. I'm a small business owner of a micro dairy as well, interested in agriculture. Yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
I would just like to take a second and acknowledge Megan Jackson, Renee Morales, and Sandra Wolf. They're not here speaking tonight, but they are valuable members of our APC, and we really appreciate their support.
In alignment with our student-centered approach, we believe students must have a say in policies and changes that affect them directly. This belief has been essential in the creation of our charter and will continue to guide us as we open our school. We would like to take a moment to acknowledge the students who have served as honorary APC members. They've offered valuable insight on many topics, from how our policies sound to ensuring our language remains fair and kind. While I won't read every name tonight, we do want to take a moment to acknowledge them for their contributions, and we deeply appreciate everything they have put up with from the APC.
I loved working with those guys. They were very quick to tell us, Mom, that doesn't sound kind. So our vision. Part of growth is realizing that we must honor the past, celebrate the present, and embrace the future. Let's take a moment to honor that past while planning a better future. Sam is going to give us a little history lesson, and then Miss Chelsea is going to share about our vision for the future of education in our area.
I'll try to keep this brief. I get long-winded sometimes. That's what he's here for. So Two Rivers Community Area is a homestead community. It was settled by homesteaders really not that long ago. The road was not developed, it's still terrible, but it was more like a gravel road leading all the way out to about 18 Mile, which was the Jenny M. Creek, and that was where the McKee Pig Farm resided. Until just not too long ago, Donnie McKee was one of the custodians of the school, and he lived on that farm, and his parents were original homesteaders of that area. It was called the Hageman Trail from there all the way out. And there were several homesteads leading out past Jenny M. Creek, one of which was the Anders. If you know Ed Anders, he was my bus driver when I was a kid. His dad was the first bus driver of the first school that was built out there by that community. The community came together and got an old Quonset hut, because there was a gajillion of those after World War II, and they put it together, and they had a school out there. And then the second generation of the school was built closer to where the current one resides, but it was right at the end of the road, Two Rivers Road, and that was actually they moved it, and it was the ski hut for a number of years until that fell apart. So the first two schools in that area was built by the community. So it's got a really awesome history of love for education and people wanting to have a local school out there in the area.
Thank you, Sam. I always like hearing about the history out there. So with our vision, at True Rivers Homestead School, we cultivate a love of learning through hands-on place-based education that honors our rural heritage and fosters innovation for the future. And to add to that, our vision is rooted in self-sufficiency, sustainability, and strong community connections. We empower students to think critically, work collaboratively, and develop the skills needed to thrive in an ever-changing world. By integrating agriculture, environmental stewardship, and practical life skills into our curriculum, we create a dynamic and meaningful learning experience that prepares students to be capable, compassionate, and resilient members of their communities.
Our mission. Vision and mission are often spoken of together, but they're not the same. Vision is the beautiful idea, the dream, the picture of what it could be. Anyone can have a vision. It's like a plan, and the path to achieving it can shift and evolve. But mission is different. Mission is what makes change last. Miss Allison Wild helped us see that social movements fade when personal benefit is the main motivator. True mission comes when purpose outweighs personal reward, and for many of us, the realization was profound. It's what gave us the confidence to put our heads down and build something intentional and meaningful, because in the end, mission is what will carry this school forward long after those of us you see here tonight no longer have a dog in the hunt. It's what endures.
So on the side, you can see our mission. But before we dive deep into the sections of the charter, I want to answer why we imagine, believe, and would like to achieve in opening this charter school. The mission is what inspires everything you are about to learn in this presentation. There is value throughout, and the reasoning behind our mission and theme is this: to empower families with choice, to create a future-focused education model, to keep hands-on learning alive, to reimagine and reinvigorate education, to grow community partnerships, to strengthen and revitalize Two Rivers School, to build up our local heritage, and to shape our children's minds with a success mindset. We want to meet families where they are in an ever-changing world and evolving education system. We believe this innovative approach does just that.
So, diving into the meat of it, Section 1, establishment of the charter at the local level. You can do the next slide, please. This is a part I'm really excited about because this is where we are supposed to demonstrate how we're different from anything else in the borough. And I think by the end of the evening, we're all going to have an idea of what's going to make our school stand out and how it's unique. And the charter really speaks for itself to that. We recognize that there may be a few wrinkles to iron out, and we believe that working with you guys is the path to achieving that. And we also feel like we're a great resource for you. So we really look forward to collaborating on those finer little nuanced things. But we wanted to set the bigger picture and kind of work our way out and then pinpoint what we're trying to do here. So homesteading, it isn't just a lifestyle. It's a reflection of something that's deeply human. Homesteading culture in and of itself, it's a culture, but culture is not static. It's fluid. It's changing. It evolves. Every human has its own unique cultural experience, and as a collective, we're contributing to the change they're in. And throughout history, we've seen that people have this deep desire to connect to the land, to connect to one another, to be part of a family. And homesteading does that. It is a way for families to connect. We're really seeing a huge resurgence of that spirit all across the world and in all the corners of the internet. There are people returning to the ways of the homesteaders. They're pulling pages out of what the original people that came to Alaska did. Growing food, making things by hand, intentionally sharing those skills with their children, and slowing down. It's not an instant gratification, but it's also not nostalgia. It's a movement towards balance and authenticity and self-reliance in a much too fast-paced world. You know, I read books, not digital books. And I kind of akin this whole charter to that. This is for the people that like to smell the pages as they turn them. That's me. And so just as homesteading values patience, stewardship, learning through doing, so too can education be slow and deliberate and deeply rooted in real life. There's a quote on the slide here. I won't read it, but I actually did some corresponding with the people that run this blog. And if you just take a second to read it for yourself, it's through the lens of homesteading. But I would just like you to invite you to add the words education to the end of that. Going slow, living with the seeds, waiting for something beautiful to grow in a world where our kids want it now. Let's slow it back down. Like a good harvest, coming together with community on purpose takes time. I would like to ask Mr. Barney to share how he feels that homestead culture in a more narrow spectrum applies to Fairbanks.
I came across this quote. And it's actually, you've probably heard this, a jack of all trades and a master of none. That's not the complete quote. It's a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one. And I think that encapsulates a lot of this homestead culture idea is it's a mindset of learning many things and being multifaceted. So problem solving and then, encountering problems and being able to teach kids how to think instead of what to think, And as we've discussed, and I don't want to get into finer details of this, but project-based learning lends itself to that. We were, right prior to COVID, we were being looked at as being a CTE pilot school for pushing CTE skills learning into the elementary setting. And our school would be pretty good for that because it's K-8. We had an entire plan. We were going to build a chicken coop, and then we had, you guys remember that? Yeah. We had this amazing, well, I thought it was pretty amazing, from K-8 where we were going to have kids working on business plans. We're going to have the younger kids just looking at eggs and how that worked and then having them hatch that. The older students working on construction and design, business management. Anyways, it was multifaceted across the grades. I ended up getting a bunch of small engines that year, and I was teaching 7th and 8th grade. We took apart the engines and put them back together. About half of them worked. When we got done doing that, it wasn't a small engines repair class. We were just learning the basics. Um, Out there, there's a lot of collaboration going on. I had a parent who actually took a small engine. He has it now, and he cut it in half, and he was putting plexiglass on the front because he wants to collaborate with us and actually volunteer his time. He owns a small engine repair business to come in and actually teach a class for free for the kids from time to time. So we have just a plethora of resources in the area and a lot of energy for that. Again, I'm long-winded, so I'm going to stop there.
Thank you. No, he held on to that bit of information until we were talking yesterday. I had no idea that that was going on because I moved to Fairbanks 6 years ago. But how cool is that? That it all kind of just tied back in. The next person that's going to speak is Miss Christine over Zoom.
Yeah, so we're going to talk a little bit about Two Rivers Homestead Charter School and what that looks like in more greater detail. For our enrollment will stay around 100 students to keep classes small and learning personalized. If the district requests us to expand, we may expand modestly to 125 through 150 students. That would include homeschool partners, the Best Hub, and preschoolers, but we plan to stay intentionally small with no building plans in terms of classrooms. If permitted and asked to grow, we may go beyond that cap of 150 students through enrolled correspondent students. And Sam's going to talk about a little bit about the homeschooling side and the few other bulletin points.
There's not a whole lot to say about this other than there are several families who have left the district with other homeschool programs out there that I know would return to the school. If we head out there, so we'd be actually gaining students that have gone out of district, they'd be coming back to the district. And even if those few that were to stay with those homeschool programs, we were talking with the district office and Mr. DeGraw about possibly picking up part of that, and I forget the reference to that, but not just having them pay, but actually picking them up as a part-time student, so they'd be part-time within our district, which would be even a better revenue gain from that. So yeah, we want to be flexible within that so that we can, help out all of the students within our community and those outside the community so that we can recruit more student attendance.
Thank you. So you've heard a little bit about our plans for the school, the very basic framework. Now we want to address who this is going to appeal to that's not already here in Fairbanks or may just be arriving in Fairbanks.
As I stated earlier in our introductions, I am a spouse of an active duty Army soldier and a best homeschool parent. The appeal of this charter school reaches many parents like my husband and myself. People from many different areas and backgrounds, many of us in the military community, we crave the type of education we received growing up in rural towns all across the United States. And we want that type of hands-on community school learning for our children. Our school will give those parents and students a taste of home, regardless of being in Alaska, Mississippi, Ohio, or Vermont. At Two Rivers Homestead Charter, we're proud to be working towards Purple Star status. It's a recognition for schools that go above and beyond for military-connected students and families. And we're not just checking off boxes here, it's about living these values every day. Military families face unique challenges, and we want them to know that their children have a place where they'll be understood, supported, and encouraged to thrive. And it's not just for military families. We want that for all the students that could attend our school. I'm sorry. Miss Sandra Wolf and I have already launched a military connected student support committee, and we're ready to resubmit our Purple Star application. Our high academic and social standards already align beautifully with the Purple Star program. Through project-based learning, strong community ties, and a focus on emotional growth, we're creating a stable foundation where every child can succeed no matter where life takes them. Every student deserves a school that feels like home, and that's exactly what we're building here. And that commitment is at the heart of everything we'll do. Caitlin can speak more.
Our homestead objectives bring people in due to meeting families' short and long term goals. This is my family's second move to Alaska because our short term plan at Two Rivers as a military family turned into our long term retirement dreams. Our STEAD model provides extra enrichment, bringing value and career and technical skills to our community. Two Rivers Homestead Charter Family Centered Learning Model teaches the skills needed for life in Alaska and a bright future. Our model, in partnership with Best Homeschool Hub, can theoretically keep families together in one school through the 12th grade, allowing students to continue exploring their passion in our STEAD education model as it paves a path to CTE. In summary, the Homestead School draws families in by giving them access to an education experience they can't get anywhere else.
I feel like that warrants a pause because I was like, yes, go. If you will move on to our school appeal. Thank you. So obviously, if you've made the drive out, we know the road, guys, we get that part, but it's beautiful. And it is a great place to get outside and have fun. I think that a true testament to our school's ability to draw people back comes from Miss Christine on Zoom. So I'm going to turn this part over to her.
Thank you, Jasmine. Yep. So earlier I stated that I was a Two Rivers Timberwolf. Um, before I was in Two Rivers, I did struggle. I struggled with making friends, and where I fit in. Moving there changed that. School finally felt like home because of the teachers for me. Teachers like Mr. Childers brought learning to life with read alouds and nature walks. Mrs. Mary Martin built a community in her classroom. Mrs. Williams pushed me to be a better reader. Mrs. Goff sparked creativity with projects like um, writing our own chapter books. And Mr. Bedoin challenged me to grow and to be a better person. They inspired me so much that I wanted to be an educator, and I kept feeling that pull back to that area where we want our children to feel the same belonging that I had found. I helped shape the Homestead focus because it reflects what makes Two Rivers special. Life slows down with berry picking, quiet trails, and waiting for salmon to return. Homesteading isn't a hobby here. It's a way of life we hope to pass on to the next generation of Alaskans. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Christine. Section 2, Organization and Administration. You guys, I'm really excited about this part, and I know it's not like the squishy stuff, but I'm a really big nerd for research, and I find comfort in things that are clearly defined and boundaries and really straightforward expectations. It just brings me so much, just like a warm blanket. We wanted our system to be tried and true. So we drew upon the wisdom of some of the charters that came before us, and we also drew upon some of the district's pre-existing policies. Sarah, thank you for helping me find the ones that I could not find. And Mr. Barney is famous for saying we don't have to reinvent the wheel, so we didn't. Um, a lot of these we just couldn't do better, so why waste our efforts at that point? We didn't. So, moving on to the next slide.
Now, you have all read the charter, and I'm sure some of the policies in there was kind of a, I think I've seen this before. Well, that's because we adapted many of our policies in our charter from already existing charter schools here in Fairbanks. Um, and like Ms. Wicks, I am also a stickler for policy. Checks and balances, oversight, accountability, those are all things that mean a great deal to me. At Two Rivers Homestead Charter School, we believe strong oversight isn't about control, it's about trust and accountability. Our governance model is built around a transparent partnership between our APC, our administration, and the district. Each has a clear role. The APC ensures that our mission and policies stay true to our charter. The administration manages daily operations, and the district provides essential guidance and compliance support. We've put clear checks and balances in place, including regular open meetings, detailed reporting, and active participation from parents, staff, and community members to make sure decisions are thoughtful, informed, and always in the best interest of our students. Our approach to governance reflects who we are as a school: open, accountable, community driven, working together to give every child the best possible education.
Thank you, Summer. And next we have collaboration and communication. So having an advanced network system is what we strive for, an interconnectedness where we all come together to a common goal, and that is educating the future generation. It's important for everyone to both be informed as well as heard and understood. And it's also been studied and shown, as we all know, that family community engagement is key to success for our children's education. We have such a tight knit community already, which is a blessing because it takes a village to raise a child, they say. And our community offers guidance, care, and a sense of security through various influences and a collective effort already. To keep everyone informed to the best of our abilities, we have practiced and will continue to use multiple avenues to reach out. So our APC will meet multiple times a year, both in person and online, and will be recorded to view at a later date by anyone if needed. We also would continue the Two Rivers Times, which is a weekly newsletter that will be sent out on all avenues via email, Parent Square, Facebook, etc. And then we have what we would like to continue, what is called Wolf Tracks, and that's the daily bulletin that communicates the day's schedule amongst staff, and then also holding weekly staff meetings, just to be held, make sure that everybody's on the same page and feel supported. We will also utilize local bulletin boards. We have these wonderful bulletin boards at our post office and our store down the road that, the older people that aren't as technology savvy, it's just great to have those available, or people that aren't on Facebook. We have those people out there as well too. So we love the bulletin boards. They're always stacked full of like all kinds of stuff going on. So we plan to utilize those as well as our developing website, which I've had the honor in creating, and it's, like I said, developing, and so we'll keep adding to it as we will. And then, of course, there's social media that'll be utilized to share upcoming events, as well as past events, special moments. We all know everybody in the community loves to see the school and students in action. I know I love to see my child and pictures and all the wonderful work that she does, and the fun things she gets to participate in when we're not there. So on that, the socials, we actually have some community Facebook groups as well. There's actually probably like 4 or 5 for just Two Rivers and Pleasant Valley alone. So we use all those avenues to help spread the word about what we have going on as well. And then we also fully encourage and appreciate parent and community voice. So we plan to utilize, forms, Google Forms. That's like the new way. It's amazing. Surveys, anonymous comment box. We've always kind of had that at our school, and I think it would be great to utilize for people to put in word if they don't want to say who they are, type thing. We also would like to continue holding what we call town hall meetings, which is kind of just getting the whole community coming together to the gym, just to kind of, make sure that everybody's aligned and we're all working together to our common goal. And then we will also communicate during our engagement events that we have planned, and then as well as one-on-one meetings and conversations as needed. These are just some of the ways we plan to communicate and collaborate with our families and community.
Thank you. So, a great deal of research went into shaping and planning our schedule. We got a lot of feedback from a range of advisors and from one another. We asked our neighbors, we asked educators, we got input from educators in other states. We asked administrators in Fairbanks, we asked administrators in the southern regions of Alaska. We asked the kids how they felt about things. We understand that children thrive with some structure, yet we have also been really intentional about weaving in flexibility so that we have the opportunity to adapt both to our environment and each individual student's needs. The calendar, I hope you find it as thoughtful and innovative as I do. I know it probably has little stars on all of your copies beside it. We recognize that. But Miss Christine is going to speak on it for a second now.
Well, thank you, Jasmine. Let me walk you through our school schedule. Our day begins at 9 a.m. with students welcome as early as 8:30 for breakfast and morning recess. From Monday through Thursday, the day runs 8:30 to 3:30, and on Fridays, we finish at 1:15. For families who need it, we're exploring aftercare until 5. We'll go into more detail on the schedule after we review the calendar on the next slide. This is our proposed year-round calendar that lets us tailor learning to the needs of our community. Many families in Alaska rely on seasonal living activities, hunting, fishing, gardening, and preserving food. And this schedule gives students the flexibility to participate without falling behind. It keeps students engaged year-round and reduces summer learning loss. Teachers also benefit with breaks to recharge, plan, and grow professionally. Ultimately, this calendar reflects our values, learning that honors the land, the seasons, and our community. Thank you.
I am not an educator. So, Sam, this is you. I'm going to ask him to take over from here.
So you can see the daily schedule there. It's morning meeting, core classes with HomeSTEAD integration, HomeSTEAD projects, and nature exploration, physical activity. I'll just briefly kind of speak to this. Um, I've taught in a lot of different schools around the district, mostly long-term subbing. And one thing I notice is every school has a culture. You've probably noticed that, like distinctly. And if you're not intentional, it'll just happen. And one thing that I think at Two Rivers over the last several years we've tried to do is be very intentional with our culture. And I'll just anecdotally speak to one thing is we would do these Wise Wolves awards, which I think, Allison, did you come up with that? No, that wasn't your thing. Okay, it came from somewhere. But anyways, when students were caught in the act of doing something good, they would get this little ticket and their name would be on there and maybe a little sentence about what they did. Those would be put into a bucket. And at these morning meetings that they'd be pulled out and then those students would be recognized and celebrated. And then other students were like, well, I want to be recognized and celebrated. And so they were, doing things to be caught doing good. Anyways, that's just a way to develop a culture of service and kindness. And that was done at morning meetings to kind of set the tone for the day. If you're familiar with Barnett, what we're proposing is something similar to Barnett in that I taught there for several years, but having the core classes and then having exploration or specialty classes, right? So the core classes would have a homestead integration in them. So math would be geared around homestead themes. Um, Science, well, that would maybe be in the afternoon, but like language arts, we'd be reading some books. There's some wonderful books that actually speak to our area. There's some autobiographies about some of the original homesteaders in the area. Um, and it'd be place-based in that sense. And then afternoon, we have, I don't know if you're familiar with our ski trail systems out there, but they're second to none. They're pretty phenomenal. But of course, I'm biased because I grew up out there and skied on them all the time as a kid. Um, and so we'd be utilizing that heavily. We have some wonderful people out there that volunteer taking care and grooming the trails and making them very, very nice. In fact, we have a Nordic ski club that's going to be starting up with Best Homeschool, where we'll be skiing 2 times a week. Anyways, all right, getting long-winded again. I just like all this stuff. It's fun. It's great for kids. So we'll be using the area because we're uniquely placed to do a lot of outdoor education and agroforestry throughout the day. But we'd have those core classes, homestead integration, afternoon spent a lot more on homestead themed specific classes, if that makes sense. I guess. Okay.
Thanks, Sam. That's where I come in. So we do have after-school care written into the charter application. It will be provided to parents who opt into the service for a fee and for the kids who want some extracurricular hands-on learning and fun. So before Two Rivers School closed, I was the program and event coordinator, and that included developing a whole new after-school program. And I'm happy to say, proud to say that it was all pretty much majority ran, or volunteer ran, sorry. With my assistance, of course. But we have so many skilled tradesmen, craftsmen, community members out there that are just excited. They're willing to come teach and share their skills, their crafts, their expertises. So aligned with our homestead focus, the program would allow students to participate in a variety of clubs that teach life skills, farming and agriculture, outdoor sports, physical education with creative play, that all intertwine social and emotional learning as well. So volunteers would teach kids about their own passions and to get the kids to be excited about learning a new thing too. Um, while gaining important social skills like working together collectively as a team or towards a common goal, creating solutions and solving problems. Um, I'd absolutely love to go into detail about all of the clubs that we've actually already have created and plan to launch, but for the sake of respecting everyone's time, I'll maybe just briefly say a couple. Um, and we do have a list provided too if anybody's curious about more of those. But just a couple that were really well received last year was Cooking Club. We actually did like farm to table meals. We were taking cream and making butter and serving that at our Thanksgiving potluck. We were making pumpkin pies out of fresh pumpkin. We were utilizing the perennial plants outside, the berries, the rhubarb that we have to create jams and certain things like that. So that kind of ties back into the whole homestead theme as well. And then another one, of course, like physical education, super important. And you guys are probably familiar with Playworks. So we actually met with some Playworks people that came to the school and we developed a whole club based around that. And so it's kind of teaching these kids, the physical education exercise, but also with creative play and how to work together to a common solution type thing. So um, also with that, on our last bulletin with the after school programs, and then we also have weekend family community activities. So we plan to continue family engagement nights and other traditional events that have been around for years in the Two Rivers community, such as the Halloween Carnival, Thanksgiving Potluck, Sugar Plum Bazaar, Christmas Store, Science Night, Field Day, and more. These events allow families and the community to engage and enjoy each other's company while interacting with students in a fun social setting. These events include some type of educational showcase where leading up to these events, they will learn and practice a valuable skill. And then during, get to show off to the community their performance, their public speaking, their handiwork, their economics, or whatever it may be. These types of events are always cherished by the community. Like I said, they've been around at Two Rivers School for years that I know of. And so, especially the elders, and it just teaches real world skills. Well, again, having fun. Like these after school and these events are meant to have fun because that's how education should be.
I'm not going to go into a lot of depth on this slide. Waivers, we know we're going to need some to make this happen, guys. I have some more in-depth answers to questions about these written down. I'd love to talk about them at the end if that's good with you. All right, let's move on. Next slide, please. So I know I'm like, oh, I'm the token crier, but I'm also the person that will just say the thing that you probably shouldn't say that might hurt feelings. And this section, educational program and student achievement, this is where I said the thing, Two Rivers got closed. We're not opening that school. We have to do something different. It was a great foundation. Really great things, right? But it's closed, guys. Show me something different. If we're going to do this, I want to see educational reform. That's our favorite phrase. And so this is where that happens, which makes me really excited because we did take something that was so beautiful and a really solid foundation and make it more. And I think every school in the borough should have the next year be more. If we're stagnant, that's not great. So yeah, I think this section is gonna really light the fire for all of you guys, because you're here because you care about kids and you care about education. And we went back to two values throughout this entire process. The first one, is this good for children? And the second one, I'm sure that Miss Lori and Sarah picked up on that I threw this one out there pretty quick. Is this a place you would want to work? That's important. I don't want to see educators get burned out. I volunteer at that school. I see what you guys are dealing with to a very small extent. But with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Sam and Christine because they are the authorities on what it's like to be a teacher.
You start this one, Christine, or do I?
I think you start.
Oh boy.
I can if you need.
Oh yeah. Okay. This is good. We have these notes here. So, Miss Lundell, who was our our special education teacher out there, we were thinking about how to save our school originally, right? Because we knew we were on the chopping block, and we're like, well, what can we do innovatively and thinking forward? Like, well, let's do a theme school. So that's kind of where this, the genesis of this came from. And she's like, well, but what about HomeSTEAD school? And we're like, oh my gosh, that's amazing because it speaks to the history of our area. And then when I started looking up homestead schools or agricultural schools, again, we don't need to reinvent the wheel, right? So I found all sorts of resources online. Instead, stands for science, technology, environment, agriculture, and design. And so that's kind of the focus of what we're looking at here. Looping model, it's kind of built into the multi-grade classrooms because as a teacher out there, I taught sixth or seventh and eighth for a couple of years. And so my seventh graders became my eighth graders, right? So it's not your traditional looping model, but because you have a contained classroom with multiple grades, you just end up with those same students. And so that's great for students. It's great for educators. You know those kids, the foundation and the expectations are already set, and then you can hit the ground running. And I love that as an educator. The looping model, I think, works great. I think two classrooms or two grades in one classroom actually works really wonderfully if you kind of have some support and know how to do that. And then hands-on learning approach, project-based learning. Miss Lundell was a great inspiration for this. If you've seen her classroom, she has you've been there, right? Yeah. So she left, and I have so much wood in that classroom and tools, hand tools. There's actually a drill press in the classroom that's been there for quite some time, and students learn, safely, of course, how to use those things. And we want students to come out of this with some real world skills, and an excitement and a direction. I've encountered way too many students in that they get to high school and they're just like, I have no idea what I want to do. Not even like, well, maybe this or maybe that or maybe that. It's kind of like a blank slate, right? And we definitely don't want that. And I think that this approach lends itself to giving students an access to a lot of different um, avenues in life, a lot of different sets that they could continue to build upon, and maybe an interest chord will be struck with them, and they'll be like, you know what, I really think I want to pursue this thing. So. Back to you, Christine.
Right. Thank you, Sam. Can we have the next slide? So, multi-grade model and ratios. Our multi-grade model is designed for both flexibility and strong relationships. So again, we're projecting somewhere between 90 to 125 students total. This supported by 4 to 6 teachers, including the principal or lead teachers, and at least 3 classroom aides. This structure maintains a maximum ratio of 1 teacher to 24 students, ensuring every child is seen, known, and supported. Next slide. So STEAD by grade bands. The STEAD approach looks a little different at each grade level. In our younger grades, students build literacy and math skills through hands-on, thematic learning. They might measure soil for a garden or write observations about growing seeds. In the middle grades, students take on applied projects like designing a garden bed with math or exploring sustainability in Alaskan life. By the upper grades, learning is more project-driven and connected to the community. Students might manage the school garden or create digital STEAD portfolios to showcase their work. Next slide. The instructional alignment. Now, our curriculum will align with Alaska content standards and statewide assessment, ensuring we meet district expectations while offering multisensory learning. We will not be purchasing the district's standard curriculum materials. Instead, our educators, alongside some partnerships, will design STEAD-themed projects that align with the Fairbanks North Star Borough School District's goals and state standards across all subjects. Just a quick note, Ms. Chelsea will be going over some of those partnerships that help us save on curriculums. For our core curriculum, the principal or lead teachers will select from recommended curriculum lists that we have provided or other aligned materials with final approval by the APC to ensure the process is collaborative, transparent, and community-driven. We'll share more about those recommended options in the budget section. Next slide. And I will turn this over to Sam for specialized instruction.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point where I need glasses. I don't have them here. Oh, borrow some right there. Yeah, not sure which number I'm on. It's number 1 or 1.5, 2. We'd have an in-house resource teacher and district specialist, vocational ed. You guys can see that here, gardening, carpentry. And again, I've already spoken to this as far as like having a lot of volunteers to come and do this specialized instruction. The approach we're taking kind of lends itself to meeting the needs of all of these learners, especially with pushing into the classroom and a lot of the hands-on learning and the thematic education that we're doing here with the STEAD model will speak to multifaceted learners, so like the different ways students learn already. Yeah, if you have any more questions about that, kind of drilling down, I guess we can answer those at a later date, but I've kind of already spoken to that.
It's hard to interrupt. We're at about the 1 hour mark, and I just wanted to I need a quick break. That's all right. So we're going to take 5 minutes, and we'll be back here at 6:35, please. All right. Thanks. Let's get back into it. I'll pass it right back to the APC.
Thank you. I think we can go on to the next slide, and Miss Christine is slated to present this one to you guys over Zoom.
Hi, yes, thank you. Student assessment system. So our assessment system begins with our universal screeners like DIBBLES and Growth Map to track student progress from the start. We also use portfolio assessments to capture hands-on project-based learning. By combining screeners and portfolios, students are prepared for traditional grading and high school expectations. And I'll continue on the next slide on this. All right, continuing on. As students advance, we tailor assessment to grade level while maintaining assessment with the school district's reporting standards. For pre-K through grade 2, we use skills progression rubrics, tracking things like early literacy, numeracy, social skills, and rating it as emerging, developing, or proficient. Portfolios, teacher narratives, and family conferences ensure that we've documented and shared. In grades 3 to 5, students receive progress reports rather than letter grades, performance scales of not yet, approaching, meets, or exceeds expectations to clearly communicate student progress and mastery. Assessment includes portfolios, project reviews, and more. For grades 6 to 8, students transition to traditional letter grades. Assessments such as rubrics and narrative feedback paired with STEAD projects and many more. This prepares them for high school while maintaining meaningful, multi-tiered approach. Next slide. I am going to pass it off.
Thank you, Christine. Goals for academic program success. Our goals for success are simple but powerful. Every student grows, every teacher thrives. Our community flourishes. We define success not just by test scores, but by the curiosity, resilience, and confidence our students carry with them. We aim to create a learning environment where children are excited to learn, feel supported, and leave prepared for whatever comes next. We practice interdisciplinary thematic instructions across all subjects, increase the number of students meeting or exceeding Alaska standards, and strive for a 90% re-enrollment rate. This reflects strong engagement and satisfaction. We're committed to measurable outcomes, reflection, and continuous improvement, so these goals aren't just words, they're lived in our school every day.
Creating a framework starts early to build a foundation of expectations that follow our students, staff, and community for life. Preschool is essential to define an integrated approach to learning by modeling behaviors and community standards. It is as simple as playing, especially with our older peers who take on these role model titles with pride. We provide tools and resources for students to work through actions and consequences. We meet students where they are, building a trust-filled relationship with them and never give up trying. I have witnessed our own students turn lemons into lemonade. We have spent tonight explaining what we plan on teaching, but an education like this takes a village. Miss Chelsea is here to share our village.
Thank you, Caitlin. So for our community partnerships, they provide us with enrichment opportunities for children. And as the parent community engagement specialist and previous program coordinator, I'd like to briefly share on all the credible connections that are already in the works that we look forward to building upon. For the sake of time, I will only mention a few on the list, but we're happy to go in depth more later if requested and time allows. So to start off, Fairbanks Soil and Water Conservation, they've been pivotal in transforming areas of the building and that we plan to reside in with extensive hydroponic systems, including a deep water culture system that was made possible by a grant we applied for and received, as well as providing district and state aligned curriculum that fits our theme. They've also agreed to help research and advise as needed when applying for more grants and have been an invaluable asset thus far in the development of this educational theme. Another one of our unique partners is One Tree with UAF. During a recent conversation with them, we learned that they have 16 years of curriculum research and development that started in Two Rivers. They began piloting their curriculum with Two Rivers K through 8 prior before to its closure, and we'd love to continue to expand upon that partnership. They have generously offered to support our mission with in-person student enrichment, support, and curriculum materials, and we feel that due to One Tree's unique connection to our community, that this partnership is a testament to how steadfast and deeply rooted our partnerships are. Field trips to local farms. This is really cool. In just Two Rivers alone, we have everything from cattle to reindeer farms to fruit and vegetables and peony farms. We have hay farms, honey farms, dairy farms, you name it. Some are even in walking distance to the school. Being able to tour and learn about both the science behind raising and producing and the economical side of operations in a hands-on real-life exposure is so valuable to shaping children's minds. Seeing where and how things are produced or raised adds an enrichment you just can't get in the classroom or anywhere else. Programs teaching life skills, like the Junior Firefighter program, have already been developed with the Two Rivers Volunteer Fire Department out there. And it's been practiced in our community, and we have all intention to continue these important lessons on how to care for others, protect oneself, and serve the greater community. It truly is indispensable knowledge to have. So aside from what you see listed on the slide, there are even more new developing partnerships as the excitement for this charter heightens. I've had multiple businesses as being the coordinator, previous coordinator, still kind of am. Tradesmen, skilled craftsmen, they've all been coming to me offering to volunteer their time to teach their skill and eager to share their knowledge with the future generations. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Summer about continuous improvement.
I'm not much of a talker. Well, I am, just not in a setting like this. So all of my speaking points are going to be very brief and to the point. We can elaborate later. I just want to respect everyone's time here tonight. So we do have time for questions. Okay, continuous improvement is part of our foundation. Each quarter, we'll review enrollment and budget data to ensure sustainability and make adjustments where needed. We'll use flexible staffing models to respond to enrollment trends and maintain small class sizes. That will serve our students best. We'll also measure success through student and parent surveys, setting a goal of at least 85% satisfaction. Our multi-tiered system of support to identify and respond quickly to students' needs, providing interventions and enrichment so every child can thrive. And Caitlin, you're up next.
As you can see, we've set ambitious goals for ourselves and established clear strategic and operational objectives to help us reach them. Our measures of success, both inside and outside the classroom, extend far beyond percentages and grades. While we've set high bars for our students, we've also set it for our staff. Because we believe that strong educators are the foundation of lasting success. That's why we are deeply committed to investing in our teachers. Our professional development plan is intentionally designed to reflect our region, our mission, and the HomeSTEAD charter lifestyle, focusing on practical skills, community connection, and the continuous growth that keeps both educators and students thriving. As someone who's worked in a small school environment and used a similar professional development model, I'm happy to share how I felt supported, not overwhelmed, with the tools I needed to succeed. We do have a few additional long-term professional development goals that we hope to implement in phase 2 of our 10-year plan, but we can talk about that later.
Facility. Obviously, we can't do the one-room cabin. Be kind of cool if we could. But next slide, please. So I'll just keep it brief. Why this location? You know, I think if we had to pick a different one, we could probably just go home. We know that we can't afford the lease at one of the buildings in town. We also recognize that there is not a commercial real estate space available that offers the things that this building gives our student access to. Honestly, it just fits so perfect. And doing this, we kept investing in the building and the location. It's drenched in history. But I mean, in addition to the shop room, it has a classroom that has its own egress for that best homeschool school hub. You know, we have the hydroponics. We have garden beds that we kept maintaining. We have a local nonprofit. We invested in keeping those going. I think we added 10 or 15 new perennials to them. So we're thinking ahead, guys. There are 5 rhubarb plants. There are honeyberries. We have access to the boreal forest right outside the doors. This location is just so in alignment with our charter that really it just feels like there isn't another option to us. And so we know there's more questions on that, but on to the next slide. We'll get to those at the end. So we're going to call it a progressive lease proposal. Obviously, none of us are real estate agents, so we realized we have some big ask in there. Briefly, I just want to speak and acknowledge the fact that this is working in other Alaskan school districts. They're doing this in the Matsu. They have the shared use of the building. It's working. I got some feedback that we have to ask you guys permission. So I'm going to look you in your eyes as I say that. We are petitioning the board to allow us to do our district's first really shared use, where we're integrating that correspondence school into a pre-K through 8 model classroom. We value our homeschoolers and our community. We want them included. And so that is as much foundational to our mission as the location itself. I know we ask a lot. I do think that we submitted some fair numbers. Miss Christine and her husband will address those in our budget portion of this. But I would like to give you guys a little feedback from Mr. Barney, because he is our best liaison, as to maybe just some things that he's heard. Obviously, he can't speak for everybody, but how best in general feels about this idea.
Oh boy, and I got my boss here too. She's looking right at me. No, we've had conversations with the district and talked about doing a building sharing, and it feels like this could be a way forward, both financially beneficial to the charter and to the district as well. That's probably as far as I'm going to speak on that. Hopefully there'll be some future collaboration and negotiation in that part.
So steamrolling right along the enrollment and admissions, Ms. Summer is going to speak on this. Next slide, please.
Okay. I'm going to keep this section brief. We're basically maintaining the status quo amongst most Fairbanks charters. We have orientation, the family commitment, a policy surrounding our lottery, and the common goal with all of it is an equitable and welcoming approach to admission. Next slide. Why an orientation? In the interest of saving time, I'm going to condense all of this down and say that we are doing orientation events because informed choices can't be made without the facts and information. Our goal is to empower families to make choices, like an informed consent is my jam. And applies to school of choice as much as it does medical care. Volunteer hours. I had to make sure we were on the right slide. Volunteer hours aren't just a requirement, they're an opportunity to build family engagement and community connections. When families help in classrooms, the library, nutrition services, or with school events and maintenance, students see that their educations matter. The presence and support makes the biggest difference in how they learn and grow. Our goal is to make volunteering meaningful and accessible for every family. There are many ways to volunteer: maintaining the ice rink, changing light bulbs, reading to a classroom, helping with nutrition, setting up for events, and many other things. Anyone can volunteer, from the student council, parents, older siblings, community members, because when families are involved, students thrive and our whole school community grows stronger. I do want to note that enrollment isn't contingent on volunteer hours, and our volunteer hours are going to be done on an honor system and tracked through Parent Square.
And that is more for the convenience of parents than anything else. We're not going to hound people. We will see if they need our support, but that's kind of where that ends. The lottery system. Next slide, please. I know that we're going to discuss this later on. So I'd just like to say that it is our ask that we be allowed to conduct a tiered lottery enrollment process prior to the actual lottery. If this can't be done due to legal or ethical concerns, we are willing to lean on the board's wisdom to find a system that works for everyone and amend that policy. And next slide. So I don't know if you can all see the slides, but the system we came up with is a fairly uncomplicated one. We're asking that the first day of our tiers, the children of founders and staff be allowed to enroll. Some of our founders have mentioned that they are willing to waive that, just for what it's worth. There's less than about 20 kids that would fall into that group. Families that have completed their intent or interest to enroll forms, again, there's a lot of crossover there, would be the next day. The third day, we would be asking for the children that live in the boundary of the former school. Fourth day, siblings of those that are enrolled that live in the area. And because family doesn't always look the same for everybody else, or everybody, the fifth day would be siblings that may be living outside of the boundary or outside of the home of their siblings. Miss Christine and I had a lot of discussions about if this was equitable and ethical, and she is going to speak to that point.
Thank you, Jasmine. So we believe that this route is equitable for the Two Rivers community and extends outward district-wide. Our charter school, it honors the legacy of Two Rivers. That's the families, educators, and community who built the small, nature-connected school. With that said, we're looking to prioritize families who were impacted when the school closed and families needed to choose between a long bus route or homeschooling if that was possible for them. But at the same time, about half of all the seats will remain open through the district lottery, keeping access fair for everyone. Here we look to complement, not compete, with other district schools. In short, our plan builds on local opportunities, keeps enrollment fair, and ensures every family has a path to belong and learn at Two Rivers. Thank you. You can go to the next slide.
And we are going to stay on Zoom with Miss Christine and her husband, John.
Thank you. Yeah, we can jump into the budget information on the next slide. Yeah, so I'll keep the budget section fairly brief as well, not because the budget isn't important, but mainly because it's not complicated, and I know that there's going to be time for questions towards the end. The team developed this budget with a conservative mindset while benchmarking against other charters in the state. One area that's a little heavier for Two Rivers is the personnel section. My understanding is that that 85 to 88% range for the different tiers of students um, is a little bit heavier than most. It's kind of at the top end, and that is to support the goal for the student teacher ratio mentioned earlier in the conversation. So just provided allocations here for each of the major sections of the budget. Can we go to the next slide too? And so here's a few other sections just showing where the allocations would land. And I know that Christine here had some additional detail on the supplies and materials, specifically the curriculum cost.
I don't know if it's a clickable link, but I can still speak to it.
Christine, would you like us to go ahead and pull that up for the board?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so when choosing curriculum, we focused on three things: quality, flexibility for mixed grade classrooms, and cost efficiency for a small rural school. We do have local science curriculums that were donated and align with our mission, but focusing on math and language arts. For math, we're leaning toward Dimensions by Singapore. It's concept-based, highly visual, and fits our hands-on, place-based learning model. For language arts, we have many we are currently in contact with, but our top picks are Bookworms and EL Education Language Arts, written by Open Up Resources. Both are aligned with the science of reading. Bookworms builds strong literacy foundations, while EL Education connects reading and writing to real-world topics. We're still gathering final quotes from other programs like Great Minds and Pandia Press, but those options give us a strong foundation. And if you have questions, you can ask me later on this. And you can go to the next slide.
Cost neutrality. This is a term that I learned as I started helping out with this team. And I've also learned that it's somewhat of a controversial term because cost neutrality, if you're bringing students to one school, the thought is that you may be taking students from another school. And so before going into the details of this slide, just thought I would kind of nail the point home. I think Sam had mentioned earlier, my wife had mentioned earlier, the beauty of the model this team has put together is that not only is it trying to meet the requirements and the standards are already kind of set forth by the state and the district, but it's also tailored to try to entice some of the families, my family being one of those, that has moved to homeschooling and entice them back into the more traditional or public school type of environment. So with that, the cost neutrality threshold that we have for our high-end budget of 1.65 million, that budget threshold is at the 125 student mark. So we tried to make this as conservative as possible. Our student BSA at $22,000 essentially puts us at a 75 student threshold to reach that cost neutrality metric. As of now, we have 72 intent forms submitted. My understanding is that may be more at this point. They're somewhere in flux, but we have 72 locked down, is my understanding, and that we have multiple other families that have expressed interest. So we are confident that the HomeSTEAD school not only can be cost neutral, but will likely in year one, but will likely go beyond that 75 student threshold is what we're aiming for. So you can go to the next slide.
Additional
I think someone else.
funding, one of my favorite topics to talk about, money. Our funding is built on a solid foundation of state and federal support, strengthened by the creativity and commitment of our community. We did not put any grants into our charter because that money is not guaranteed, and we wanted to make sure our school could work on a minimalist budget. However, we are eligible for a wide range of state and federal charter school grants, along with USDA programs that support our agricultural and nutritional initiatives. Beyond that, we're exploring agro-tourism opportunities. Another thing I'm really excited about is agro-tourism. Um, ways to open our campus to the community while generating sustainable hands-on revenue for the future. We are not grant writers, but our team did do some research and we compiled a list of grants unique to our school. And I have the short list of the long list printed out that I can share with you guys later. Um, and as well as Chelsea talked earlier about some grants that she helped obtain for the school last year. We're fortunate to have individuals and organizations across the country who volunteer their time and expertise to help us secure funding and grow our agricultural learning programs. Our nonprofit partner, the Timberwolf Pact, plays a huge role in hosting fundraisers like our annual yard sale, school carnivals, and community events that directly support our students and classroom. Together, these efforts ensure our school can grow, innovate, and stay true to our mission of providing meaningful project-based education. And I'm going to pass the mic to Caitlin.
Transportation. More than half of the students that attended the previous school at this facility use the bus on a regular basis. Our community needs transportation, but the need extends beyond our community, and we recognize that students from Fairbanks and North Pole end of Chena Hot Springs Road could also benefit from equitable access to transportation. Unfortunately, we had recognized pretty early on that our budget did not allow for providing transportation. We just don't have 90,000 for a bus. At the time of writing our policy, we chose to write out a transportation policy that states our school can't provide it. However, just because that's in the official policy doesn't mean that we were done trying. We did continue to reach out, make phone calls, and since submitting our application, we have learned there is ample space on the Weller bus to accommodate the HomeSTEAD kids. This is the beauty of our one road and us offsetting start and end times with Weller. We understand our alternate schedule makes transportation tricky when the rest of the district is not in session yet. We're still investing our time to come up with our own transportation system to fill any gaps in transportation coverage. So this slide is about equitable access to charter schools. This remains a challenge, particularly for underrepresented and economically disadvantaged communities. Research shows that there's a crisis facing rural students that points to the critical distribution of resources. According to over 20 years of research from the National Rural Education Association, more students attend rural schools than attend the 100 largest U.S. school districts combined. Nearly 1 in 7 rural students experience poverty, 1 in 15 lack health insurance, and 1 in 10 have changed residency in the last 12 months. The issues impacting rural families and communities extend to these rural children. Geographically, the addition of this charter would broaden educational options on this side of town and provide families with greater access to choice schools and the opportunity to engage in the lottery process. There's us right there.
Impacts and outcomes. Our charter is designed to create meaningful impacts that align with the district's strategic plan, ensuring our goals support the broader vision for educational excellence and student success. We're also cost effective. Our project-based community supported model allows us to maximize resources, while keeping administrative costs low, and focus funding where it matters most, directly on students and classrooms. Finally, our agricultural focus opens the door to unique funding opportunities not typically available to traditional schools. including but not limited to USDA grants, agricultural education partnerships, and community-based agro-tourism initiatives. Together, these outcomes demonstrate that the Two Rivers Homestead Charter School is not only innovative, but also strategic and built for long-term success.
Thank you. So, as you can see, what we've presented here tonight, it's more than just a concept. We have a plan. It's a plan that's rooted in relevance. I mean, look at what's happening in the world right now with food insecurity. This school rises up to meet that. We've built a strategy that is grounded in common sense. It's relevant because it reflects who we all are as a community, our families, our values, our way of life. It's strategic because I would like to say every piece has been pretty well thought out and designed to support long-term success. We're not just trying to get doors open. We want this to work for the next generation. Again, after our kids are gone, this still needs to work. And mostly because it just makes sense. I like things that make sense. And this does. It's built on what we know. It's built on what we know that works. Strong relationships, real connection to the world around you, and commitment to keeping those things strong. We truly believe that the Homestead School is not just a good idea, it's the right idea. The numbers work in such a way that when I look at them, I can't speak for everyone else, but I believe that this charter can be opened without having to close another school. That was really important. She's going to finish so I don't cry.
She put me on the spot again. Where were you?
Right here.
Oh, the last line. Okay. Lastly, we believe the numbers work in such a way that this charter can be opened without causing the closure of any more neighborhood schools. We humbly ask you to vote yes on the 18th and make this dream a reality. I would like to give a brief thank you to some of the people who contributed to our charter that's not here tonight, if that's okay. It'll be very brief. Miss Patricia Baer, for all of her insight. She's a remarkable lady. Mr. Pete Roberts, who helped us with our discipline policy. Mr. Jimmy, the custodian at Two Rivers, for all of his wealth of knowledge about that building inside and out. Faith, Miss Webster of the Dubard School, Dr. Murphy and Miss Murphy, founders of Innovative Prep, and Mr. Prim, the principal. And my cousin, Brian Quick from Rankin County School District in Mississippi. He's a brilliant educator, and he gave a lot of insight into themed schools that are in the southern part of the U.S. that have really worked, and we drew some ideas from that too. And most importantly, Miss Wild, because after all, she is the person who built the foundation for what we presented tonight.
So, with that, we would like to open up the floor to questions. I know there have to be some. At least I hope there's some.
Okay, thank you. Board, how I'd like to go about this is to our, well, for one, to prioritize questions. Try to ask your most important questions early. I would like to get out of here at a reasonable hour. I'm shooting for no later than 9 o'clock. And if we can get out earlier, that's also great. So please prioritize your questions. I'd also like to request that we try to the extent possible to stick to one kind of subject area or section of the application at a time. I know that might not be entirely possible, but if you can, I think that helps the dialogue and helps the public to follow along. I'm going to go ahead and open it up to the board. I will say I'll allow for at least 2 questions plus a couple follow-ups to each question, but I do want to make sure everyone has plenty of time. So, board members, Miss Maple.
Thank you all. I'm just going to jump into enrollment as a budget question, because it's my, sort of the overlying concern that I have. That the minimum enrollment to make the numbers work, and correct me if I'm wrong, is 75, which is more than were enrolled at Two Rivers previously. And I'm wondering where planning has gone, what kind of considerations you've made for, if this were to be approved and then enrollment doesn't hit that 75, what's next?
That's a really good question. And I think I asked Mr. DeGraw that too, because we don't want to open something that is not fiscally responsible and cut these kids short. We did do some recruitment efforts. We have 72 so far letters of interest, people that are prepared to enroll. That does not include preschoolers. We have the number of preschoolers to make that 75 going into this. And we do plan to increase our enrollment activities once we meet again and feel like we have a better idea of the climate and if this is going to be something that could happen.
I'll add something real quick. So we do know that the school off Badger just closed recently as well. And so we have all of those students on Nordale, and we assume a lot of them also went to homeschool as well. Nordale is a road off Chena Hot Springs that's kind of like the meetup between Fairbanks and North Pole. So we do feel like a lot of those people located in that area could have interest in enrolling in our school as well.
Can I ask one more? Just
Follow up, Miss Maple.
I want to be really intentional in how I phrase this, but I didn't have time to try to do that while you guys were talking. I am curious if there's been any thought. So leaning into this potential of, okay, but if there's not enough students to make it a fiscally, even a viable plan, if there's any from within your APC, from within your community, if there's been any conversation about creating something that is more in line with a program within the district, if there's been any discussion, we talked about location and about that of course the Two Rivers building is where that's the intention, but if there has been conversation about, okay, well, there's this model that you guys have presented that I think that you all know since day one of your conversation, I've been incredibly interested in. But if it can't exist there, is there consideration to this sort of a model existing somewhere else, even whether it's as a program, whether it's not in the intended building? What have you guys thought about along those lines, if anything?
I'll just say it. I think Dr. Miner saw my feet start to wiggle a little bit because I got excited that you asked that because yes, there has been conversation about that. When I saw you guys' strategic plan come out, I was like, are they in on our Google Doc? Do they know what we're doing here? Yes, we've had this conversation. Pilot us as your strategic theme school. Take our work. It's about the mission, about the goal. Right?
It is about the mission. It's not about us as individual people. It is about the mission, and we want to see this succeed, whether it is our school in our building or if it's somewhere else. We believe in this mission. We believe in what we have written in this charter. And like Jasmine said, we would be honored to pilot your strategic plan. Um, and I just wanted to add to the first question you had, if that's okay, about more students. The security the charter school could provide is very intriguing, and it gives families like mine, military families who have to PCS every 2 to 3 years. We move, we change schools, move states. Um, with the charter school, we have a 5 to 10 year contract. I think we wrote a 10 year into ours. A 5 year. That gives us the security that, okay, this school is not going to be closed before I have to move again. And that's another appeal for more student enrollment in our school. I hope that kind of answered your question.
I do want to add that was the end of that discussion when we had it. That would be our only ask. Give people a guarantee.
I have more budget. I'll pass it off to somebody else, but if we stay in the budget topic, if you want to keep me in the queue.
Okay. Next in my queue, I have Miss Doolian.
Okay, thank you, President Burgess. I also want to thank Representative Tomaszewski for being here tonight and is in the audience. I do have a question, and thank you for addressing. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for this presentation. It is incredibly clear that you have gone beyond a vision, and you have a very clear direction and a clear plan, and you've articulated that plan incredibly well. It's clear what your focus is. It's clear how many students you need, and I also want to thank you for working within a realistic outlook on that. So thank you. I do have a couple concerns. I guess the first one that I want to talk about, and you mentioned it as well during the presentation. Is there an ethical concern around this, or is this legally viable? And also, you indicated that you'd be willing to kind of adjust if needed. What I'm hearing is that you want to get to 100 students. That's the goal. There were fewer than that prior to Two Rivers closing as a neighborhood school that were enrolled there. However, I'm going to ask a two-part question, so I want to ask two questions. They'll just have two parts. The first part of that question is a little bit about the community of Two Rivers being so far out. I want to hear from you that are from that community. Who's in that community that is your population growing? Is it shrinking? Where do you see the growth, if possible? Is it in the military? Knowing that, and so that's part one of the question, because when we look at placing a school, demographics played a big part in the decisions that we made that we made last year. However, I want to hear from you in the community itself, and also your military connectedness, because I know that that the military does draw a lot of people from rural America, and you have this opportunity there. And then the second piece of that is, would you be willing, this is maybe just a yes, no answer, but I do have ethical concerns about the tiered lottery for boundary, former school boundary, because that would be a consistent concern that I've had this entire year with not just this application, but we won't talk about that. But would you be willing to back away from that tiered lottery for former Two Rivers students that lived within the boundary? What I'm hoping to hear is a yes, because I'm hearing right now that you're going to be recruiting to get up to that number anyway. I'm hopeful that all the people who live in that community have a chance. So thank you for entertaining my long-winded two-part question.
I'm actually really glad you asked that question. So for military connectedness, Two Rivers, my husband and I bought our house in Two Rivers sight unseen. We were in Colorado, and I was scrolling through Zillow, and I told my husband, that's the house. And he said, you're insane. I said, I'm either brave or stupid, I'm not sure. We moved to Two Rivers. Guess what? I love my house. So I guess maybe I am brave and not stupid, but I love my house. I love the community. Out of all of the houses we looked at, Two Rivers was the only area that I could find a 2,000 square foot house on a 3-acre lot for under $300,000. When we got orders to move to Alaska, our biggest thing, and there are a lot of families like ours, was if I'm going to live in Alaska for 3 years, I want to live in Alaska. Living on Fort Wainwright or living on Eielson Air Force Base, you don't get the submersive Alaska experience that you get when you live somewhere like Two Rivers. I do see growth for Two Rivers happening. Growth doesn't happen overnight, but the more we talk about it, the more we just get the word out to people of, hey, this is a really great area. Housing is affordable. We've got a great school. Growth will happen. So that's not really. I mean, we've thought about it. It has been a concern, but we also see the potential. And in my networking and talking with other families that are military affiliated, I've heard a lot of the same things. We've even had families extend their orders. I don't want to move this year. I want to stay here for 2 more years until my kid gets out of elementary school or my kid gets out of middle school. And we've had a lot of families in Two Rivers that they did not extend a second or third time because of the school closing. But I've heard new families coming in, and I'm super excited that if our charter school is approved, they will look at buying a property in Two Rivers or making the drive from Fort Wainwright to Two Rivers. I hope that answered the first part of your question. Okay. Tiered lottery. Short answer, yes. We are very much willing to adjust our lottery and the tiered system that we had wrote into our charter. Jasmine could probably elaborate a little more on that one.
Is it okay if I give the yes and? Again, I said I'm a nerd. I like to research stuff. There's not really great research on the ethics and the legality of that. I found a report that was put out by a organization in DC. It's old. It's from 2012. And it says that at the time that it was written, Alaska is one of the states that doesn't have a clearly defined definition of what that looks like. That's why, according to this report, we have charters that are able to do these preferences for founders, the preferences for the letter of intent. I'm going to put you on the spot. That report says that the state of Alaska can be petitioned by the superintendent to allow a tiered lottery if the board agrees that it is ethical and it's not completely filling all the seats. Sorry. However, in the interest of not putting people on the spot, we had some discussions about maintaining the status quo that other charters have done and maybe asking you guys how you felt. You don't have to give an answer tonight, but about limiting that to the letters of intent like other charters. I know that the ones you have been a part of did that. That would be a decent compromise. We don't love it, but I think it's fair. Thank you.
I do have a tidbit to add. I agree. It is the last affordable place, probably in Fairbanks and North Pole, to move to. That's why we bought our house, even though I hate the kitchen. Um, we still have families calling that just moved here that are completely unaware that Two Rivers closed. They just they don't know. And I've had Facebook messages being like, "Hey, do you still work at this school? I'm thinking of enrolling my kid." No, sadly no. But we're working on it. And I think our community is having a baby boom. My youngest being only 3 months old, cutie patootie. And oh my gosh, I feel like everyone I know is pregnant right now besides these ladies and myself. So I do feel like our population is growing. There are some affordable houses available. I've met many new families that have just come here, and I've seen many families go after our school closed too.
You know, as a birth doula, I can attest to that baby boom right now. But I did also want to add that we reached out to 2 different real estate agents because, again, that's not our wheelhouse. And they said one of their quotes was, "I can sell you a house that is affordable with an outhouse, or I can get a millionaire in the house of their dreams in Two Rivers. There's room." And that was like a very salesy a pitch. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. But the answer is yes, there is room to grow. Unfortunately, we have had some people leave with the school closure, so there are properties ready to be occupied.
Okay, I have Miss Carol Hubbard.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for your presentation. It's very heartfelt, and it's an exciting program that you're proposing. If my kids were young, I'd want them to attend, and if I dial back the clock, I'd love to participate. But I do have a couple questions, and Mrs. Julian actually kind of stole a couple of my questions. So I want to talk a little bit more about attendance. You said you currently have 72 people who have expressed interest, or interest expressed for 72 students. Let me put it that way. Okay, so interest expressed for 72 students. So do you know how many students are from outside of the Two Rivers area?
You know, I don't have that exact data off the top of my head, but I will tell you a lot of them are correspondence students. And I'll just share with you, I had a mom tell me that she had $10,000, so she wasn't going to BEST. And I said, "What do you mean? I want $10,000. Tell me more." And she explained to me that with their correspondence school, that their money had rolled over and she was not coming back for BEST. She had to spend that money. But she said, "I'll come back for your school." And she signed the letter of intent, and she has 8 children. So
And does she live in Two Rivers?
she does. There's another mom that I think our most recent person is a North Pole parent. And I have gotten feedback, much to their point, from the people that live on Nordale very specifically, that are willing to make that drive, and a few military connected clients of mine that like the idea of using Badger Gate to access our school.
Okay, so I guess that was really kind of my question. Was I was looking at demographics and thinking, wondering how many students from Fairbanks, like I guess 5 Mile, Chena Hot Springs, and west, maybe that would be kind of considered Fairbanks. How many like from the Fairbanks area? Maybe how many from North Pole, from Fort Wainwright, from Eielson? Do you have any kind of sense of where your people are coming from?
I can tell you 2 are coming from a different charter school. I don't have those numbers, but I'll get them to you.
Okay, I think that's all I have for right now. Thank you.
Next in my queue, I have Audra Hull on Zoom, or Miss Hull on Zoom.
Thank you, President Burgess. Thank you. I just want to say thank you to the APC for your hard work and for your time. My question, so the charter's goal is to enroll 100 students. On page 22 of the charter, it states the deed capacity is 98 students. It also states the charter believes that the building could accommodate 120 to 150 students. Can you please explain how that is going to work? Because all those numbers, I'm not sure how those all correlate together, and then how that would impact the space for BEST.
So I went to school there 2nd through 6th, and just based on there was well over 100 students there. There was right around between 120 and 130 consistently. Our front office was I mean, it was each classroom. There were no multi-grade classrooms when I went to school there. For many years, it was that way. Each classroom was a grade. It was K 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6th grade in the very last classroom. And we had, well over 100 students consistently year after year. Of course, I didn't know anything about the deed 98 capacity, but for quite some time we've been going over that, I guess, as a district. So I don't know. I guess I'd pitch that back to you guys as like, how were we able to do that for that many years? I don't know the legalities on that.
Um, so Christine White here on Zoom. I think that might be because they moved the office over to the kindergarten room, but correct me if I'm wrong. And so that might be why they adjusted the building numbers. If someone wants to elaborate more on that.
They're thinking right now, Christine.
Is that a question you guys might could help us
Yeah,
with?
administration probably needs a little time to verify. So next week, when we have the presentation from administration, we'll get that information.
We have asked that same question before, Ms. Hull, as to the deed capacity being listed at 98, but historically, the school had over 100 students. So us APC members, we have also posed that same question, and we have not gotten answers to that yet.
Christine again, and to add, when I went there in the early 2000s, it was same numbers as Sam, and that was when it was K through 6, and then they brought in the 7th and 8th graders. So we had about the same numbers of 125, 130 students.
Thank you.
Any follow-up, Ms. Hull?
Not right now.
Okay, thank you. Next, I have Mr. Doran.
Okay, thank you. There are aspects that absolutely excite me on it. I mean, the homestead and approach, and was fortunate enough to have some little beginnings, snapshots of what you were talking about previous year, and putting that together. And I always think of coming out there and having that absolutely fresh birch syrup that comes out so clear. I hadn't realized how clear it was when it comes out, and having it right out of the tree. As a student shared that. I was also really caught by the innovation of really looking at a year-round calendar. And I know that it would be approximately 30 years ago, there was a really robust conversation about year-round for North Pole and Chino Hot Springs Road area. That was quite exciting. Didn't happen, but it came actually really close. But I do have some real questions that I question as a charter, and whether the application is ready as a charter. But I do want to say that you answered one of my questions about thinking of something else. As you were conversing, I wrote down, what about a hybrid model? especially when you said best is a foundational component, and that's not only talked about in here, but it's a component to it. And seeing how homeschooling is changing and whether it's alternative. So I won't. We can come back to that. I just am glad to hear those types of things, theme school, whatever, on the table. So I'll go to enrollment first. A couple of the answers have been there. I do have a real concern that throughout the application, sometimes it's, out 100 students is our target, 75 is our minimum, which if you were only at 75, and as you said, I mean, that's such an easy one. We've been seeing numbers go down. Uh, Two Rivers is its own community, and it's it's a remote but its own community and has been for decades. But then at another place it's 125, and then another place it's 150, and so I'm putting it's all in one question. But these are the components. If you could do, but you'll expand to 150 or even 125 if the district requests that. But if we approve a charter, what is it that we're approving? Is it 100 student or 150 student? Because very different things. And a charter contract is 10 years. The 5-year contract is really with the district. It's more administrative contract, the logistics within that. So we are really talking a 10-year minimum commitment, hopefully 20 or 30. The question was asked, but I have not heard an answer on it, is when you take best, and I have no idea how many students are going into that, but you take that space out, it changes sort of that available space. And so I don't get too hung up on deed capacities because they change and stuff depending on how many square footage they feel a student should have, and we have gone over. But if we go to 150, we're at 150%. And so what is the fire marshal have something to say with this, et cetera? So basically, if you could answer, how does best operating right now on its own, STEAD on its own, how does that impact the available space for students? And I think that's the biggest one right now in the enrollment area. There are other areas that get into later.
I can't speak to how many students are utilizing the best facility. I will say that we planned for them to have their own classroom. It has a separate egress. We only would be doing numbers that allow for the use of the classrooms we've allocated for the HomeSTEAD school. To just get straight to your point, we're talking about a cap of 125 students in-house. We don't want to go more than that. That 150 number, our hope would be those would be correspondence students that are utilizing the HomeSTEAD skills portion to bring some of that allotment back to the district, and that we could also get some of those out of area correspondence students to redeem their allotment with us. If we went over that, it would not be in-person students, is kind of the discussion, because we want to stay intentionally small. It would be crazy to ask educators to do what we're talking about with 300 kids, and they wouldn't make those meaningful connections. So we are talking about intentionally small, and I saw that deed capacity and I thought, oh my gosh, was this building set up to fail if that's all it was supposed to quote unquote hold? Because it was never going to make the utilization of these other schools. But yeah, to answer your question, 125 kids or less. We're shooting for 90 because we don't want that bare minimum. 100 puts us in a really beautiful spot. And when we have that growth, bring those in, and then really amp up those efforts on our end to get any additional kids that are coming in to be best kids. or at least be out of area kids that are investing back into the district while they mend that relationship and trust with us.
Follow up.
Follow up, Mr. Dorn?
Thank you. That really helps me. So we're really talking funding a school for 125. Okay. Um, on the homeschool piece that you mentioned, how do you plan to staff for that? Will they just drop in and out of classes? We set a set route for them. Maybe it's a special STEAD class that's just for them. That was one of my areas, but you brought it up now about how are you going to serve them?
That's a really good question and totally out of my wheelhouse. I think our intention was to make it be in these skills that are more utilizing flex spaces anyway. So we're not overcrowding these classrooms and going way beyond that PTR. HomeSTEAD, those classes are taking place in the gym. They are outside. We have the parent volunteers. We have the community volunteers. We have our support staff there for those particular things. So I think our intention would be to try to really target people to those. Of course, we're not going to turn away kids needing help with math if they need it, but that would be more directed to that best space, whereas the HomeSTEAD skill inclusion would be with the theming material. And then we really also want to include those children in social events too. So not just the core of it, but the stuff that really matters outside of school hours too. I hope that answers your question.
Gives me information. Thank you. All right. Put me back in.
Okay, I'm gonna put myself in the queue because I'm interested in following up on that fee-based system for homeschool students. I'm curious specifically about how that might work in terms of the amount that you would collect, what the fee would be, and uh, and then also just if you've looked into the legalities of it and if best students would have the same fee as other homeschool students.
So our charter school will eat the cost for best students. Best students will not be charged a fee to take advantage of the classes at our school with the shared space in the building. Outside of area homeschool students that want to take advantage of our classes, we planned on doing the same formula that the district uses to come up with their fees for out of area students to use classes. Did that answer your question, I hope?
Thank you, yes.
It was actually our understanding that that money would go to the district, not us, and we're okay with that. So just to throw that out there, that wasn't even something that we were banking on. We just want that inclusive model.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Maple.
Okay. Sorry. First, I just want to say, because I've gotten myself in trouble before, I'm going to share an idea. But that's all it is. That's just my individual board member having an idea, and that doesn't mean it's a real thing, just for the sake of saying it. And I don't want to undermine any of this work. I want to do the opposite. I want to honor all of this work. And as I'm listening to all of this and processing, Ms. Wick, your response to my last question, where I keep going to is how to have a program like this exist within our current structure. And so I'm just going to mention a few things, and I don't need you to respond. But I want it to be something for you to think about, maybe, and for fellow board members to think about, maybe, or maybe I will just say it and then it will never be heard of again. But what I keep falling to is some version of this model that you've created being housed in a space that we're already paying for, which of course the nearest space is Weller, which is at, I've been over here doing my own little thesis research, is at 569 is the capacity. The current enrollment's only 400. Whether that means they have 3 classrooms available or 6 classrooms available, I don't know. I don't know what the actual usage of that building is right now. But I do know that as we worked through this packet and through your presentation, some of the things that came up were that transportation just simply isn't viable, but transportation to Weller already exists. Food services already exist. The cost difference in standing up a new school versus a program is enormous. There's room for out of attendance area students. And looking at all of your partnerships, I had originally written down as you were going through, or as I read before you presented, I wanted some examples of what homestead and farmer partners you had, and then I didn't have to ask the question because you rattled them off. But that Weller's not that far from those places, and if those were things that could be incorporated into a program within an existing building, but then there is this shared use space out at the Two Rivers building, which is already a hub, that then there would be the opportunity. I mean, I just saw Jesse Hensel was a teacher at Pearl Creek. It closed. He now has students at Wood River, and so he took them on a field trip to Pearl Creek to use the garden there. And like, is there a world where there's a program that exists in a space where it's affordable to create it and run it without totally abandoning the building, which is what you're maintaining essentially now, Mr. Barney? And I'll stop. But those are the things that are just rattling around and trying to come up with. I don't know. That's where I am.
Thank
It's not a
you.
question.
No,
Sorry.
thank you for that. Is it okay if I speak to you privately about that? I don't want to say
Yes
ugly
to that.
stuff out loud.
I understand.
Thank you.
I also have lots of thoughts on what you just said. So if we could maybe get an email thread or something going, that would be great.
Um, I'm actually gonna throw this out there that does anyone need another short break? Okay, let's take.
I could use a quick break.
Okay, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 5-minute break for the APC and myself. Be back at 7:55, please.
said we're afraid to hug you because we don't want to.
Hug me, I'm just sweaty. Don't tell my orthopedic surgeon just yet.
Okay, I'll call us back to order here. And a quick note for those APC members who are on Zoom, feel free to speak up and if you would like to be recognized. I am getting texts from our executive assistant when someone has their hand up, but I might not always see it right away. So don't be afraid to speak up. And I do have Miss Hull back in the queue again. Okay, and also if APC members want to receive texts from your folks who are on Zoom and let me know, that's also an option. Okay, and I think we are in, excuse me, I have next Miss Carol Hubbard.
Thank you. Are we okay to switch gears a little bit yet? Or now? Okay. One of my questions was about the so the calendar, the year-round calendar. Like as a teacher, I love that because I am anti-vacation time. I want seat time for students. I know, whatever. I'm on an island, so that's okay. But so what my question was have you approached like FEA? Have you guys talked about the contract and how that would roll out? And has there been reception toward that, or do we know anything about that yet? Like, do we have anything in the works?
We have reached out. We are waiting for replies. So the ball is out of our court at the moment. Hopefully, this will get seen and that process will get expedited.
Okay, can I follow up?
We did take Effie's calendar since it is an approved one and cross-reference all of those required dates that are in the FEA contract and check them off against ours to make sure they were accounted for. And we have a supporting document that we have given. I can email copies of it. We have 2 alternative options for calendar that we're willing to pitch in the meantime.
Okay, so I just want to make sure that I understand. I'm just going to try to repeat what you said. You've matched Effie's calendar, which is already approved. Is that okay? I was not aware of that, but okay, thank you.
We match the number of professional development days, the number of teachers in classes and students out of classes days, in that respect, as far as like the contract obligations go.
Okay, but not the year-round calendar idea. I see. Okay. And then the final question about that, and about, do you have teachers who have agreed to, like, who have talked to you and said, I would love to do year round, and that sounds wonderful? And if you have, how many teachers so far have said that?
We have spoke with, oh goodness, I want to say no less than 6 that are here in the area that liked our calendar. We also consulted some local indigenous families to Two Rivers. They also were thrilled to see that calendar, and I've also sent it to several different educators who are also in the lower 48 to review it, just so we have opinions from across the country, as well as the area here. And we have not had anyone get back to us saying that they did not like the calendar.
Okay, thank you.
As far as actual staff go, I've heard from 2 that are interested in coming, 2 of our 4 teachers. And to that point, we're hoping, I'll just speak ahead. I'm going to jump ahead to a waiver. One of the reasons we're asking for one of those particular waivers is we recognize that we have a calendar that is starting earlier, if that's the one we go with. We have educators that are interested in moving to Alaska to interview for these positions. And we need some concessions that give them time to get here if they're the most qualified candidate that applies.
Okay, Ms. Julian. And then I have Ms. Hull on Zoom and Mr. Dorn.
Okay, thank you so much, President Burgess. Talk to me a little bit about Ms. Wick, when you were presenting, you mentioned
I'm sorry to interrupt, but her name is Wicks.
Got it right.
I
Had
did.
it- yes,
Okay.
you had it right. They
I
just
did.
left the S off.
Okay.
So
Great.
okay. I'm sorry to interrupt. I just
That's
needed to-
okay. So I did have it right. That's a great that's a procedural interruption, which is absolutely fine. Especially because I had it correct. So, waivers. So during the presentation, you said, I know I want to talk about waivers. I know that there's going to be a question about waivers. Yes, there's definitely questions about waivers. Ms. Carol Hubbard talked a little bit about the waivers with the negotiated contract with the year-round kind of school. I also, from a personal perspective, this really does set you apart. And it really does set you apart from what's offered, I think, even within the state. And so I'm very curious about if you can talk a little bit more about how you arrived at that calendar and the barriers that you see or the waivers that you think that you're going to have to request. I know that a lot of those waivers will be with the negotiated contract with Fairbanks Education Association, and then also with ESSA. But also there's and this is in relation to waivers around your scheduling. You have an aftercare component in there as well that takes you to 5:00 p.m. I need you to talk a little bit more about what that means and what that looks like, and the obligation that you would be asking, perhaps from the staff who are already there, who are a part of a negotiated agreement. So if you can talk a little bit about the aftercare component, and then a little bit more about the barriers that you see with the waivers that you intend to negotiate.
I'm going to expedite a little bit of this out because you guys have heard my voice enough. I do think, just to go with the aftercare portion, I think that if you guys were amicable to it, just for protection for all of us, that we should consider changing that language. This is such a dorky thing. I think we should change the language to after school clubs versus care. That kept me up at night. And I think there's just a little bit of room for legal issues for everybody if we call that care. We got some really great guidance from admin that we would need to have a district employee overseeing that. I agree. And while we're there, I will say that our volunteers need to be vetted. We don't, that policy stays. We feel very strongly about that. So Caitlin actually brought a lot of wisdom into the portion as I'm going to say ESSA, but I may mess that up, employee. And Caitlin, do you mind speaking on who would work those after school clubs? Sorry, I got really close.
I think if I read the legalities right, FEA is not allowed to work before school, but they are welcome to work X amount of hours they want to after school. Some of it would count as like a little overtime stipend, but that's usually for events and stuff. ESSA is where you get flexible and you can do what you want, and they can work before school, during school, all the different fill-ins that you need there. We actually did have our after school coordinator, who was a whole separate, she subbed Miss Chelsea, and also ran the after school clubs, all of them, like she was speaking to, with the help of volunteers. So she would coordinate, oversee, facilitate the whole thing, but she would let it run naturally.
For the calendar, we got a lot of feedback again. And some of the feedback that we were given, it was the funniest quote. So a parent told us that he was a professional overachiever at forgetting things during the summer slump. And he loved this calendar because of that. Um, and then we ask educators, I asked Ms. Wild, would you even want to work here with this calendar? And we got a lot of feedback that people really like the idea of not having to pay for marked up plane tickets to travel back to the lower 48 and to be able to take their kids with them. We got a lot of feedback from military spouses about why this worked for them and from the actual service members too. And Miss Christine can speak on that. But before I jump to Miss Christine, Summer, will you share the feedback your husband and his colleagues gave?
I would be happy to. So I made a copy of this calendar and I had my husband take it to work. Um, Everyone he showed it to at Fort Wainwright, they loved it. They said with the winter trainings, summer trainings, all of the time that they're away from home due to Army stuff, this calendar, the students' time off and our breaks kind of coincide with their training schedules. So it allows service members to be home with their families when their families are home, which, we all know family time is invaluable for students.
Were you asking me to go into the calendar?
Yeah, go ahead.
From an educator perspective, I really liked writing this calendar because when you're teaching and you really put so much into it, your heart and everything, it wears on you. So when you run into like fall break or spring break, um, 1 week sometimes just isn't enough because it's really hard to turn it off. So it really did feel like a good fit. And we see it a lot down here in like Arizona, like the Chandler School District has all different calendars, and they're a year-round program. So they have different schools where there's a school that teaches only core curriculum in the mornings, and then the kids have to sign up for an after-school thing, and that goes towards their curriculum. And they ride a bus over. So like in terms of like that school district, I was thinking about and looking at their calendars. They're a very successful school district. So for me as an educator, I really love the year-round approach and think it really matches up with that homestead theme. So hunting season and fishing, and then over winter break having it an extra week longer because those plane tickets do get really expensive too for families. Being able to go see your family and afford it as well. It's also really great for homeschool families. You'll have homeschool families. We homeschool and we liked starting in July so we could take longer breaks here and there throughout the year. So having a calendar like this really, I think, would draw in those homeschool families that would want to take like the homesteading classes that we would offer. I just think it's an extra component that really attracts and makes us just more interesting and draws in those families.
I feel that this calendar, I mean, this is our third version. Let me just throw that out there. It's the third one that we really went back to it and back to it and back to it because it had to align with our agricultural and seasonal activities. And that was not easy to do with working with all those other factors. But to support the mission of the program and the educational alignment, I mean, I have a calendar that we've printed for you guys that has a really loose overview of what those blocks look like seasonally. And it doesn't work if we're not in school when the aurora's out and kids are supposed to learn about the aurora, just like a really out there example. But it also, we feel, is a really great way to combat chronic absenteeism. I know a mom that told me her kid was missing school to go to the moose camp. They don't have to miss school with this. We do recognize that it's got some give and take. And I think to talk about the earlier question of how are we going to get people in, I think this calendar is one of the ways that this school is going to draw people in, maybe more than any of us realize with living in the area we live in. To speak to the waivers, I had mentioned 401 on there. I did not give an in-depth explanation. It is okay if I pull up my phone because I wrote it down and I don't want to misquote. But in that one, it does say educators' contracts that are not within the district began, I believe, in June. That doesn't give people enough time. It could be July to start interviewing for when it gets open to out-of-area applicants. So that was a waiver that it was pretty easy to tell that we would need if we wanted to be fair to the people that wanted to apply and let everybody that does want to apply actually get a chance to do it. Going on to those, I have like a whole page written on it. And so we also ask for that waiver because in there, if I understood this right, it seems to indicate that teachers need to be 2 years in a position before they're allowed to transfer. We ask that you consider letting them transfer. We don't mind having new educators. And if somebody just really doesn't feel at home with where they're at and that they would serve children better by applying here, we ask that they be allowed to do that. We also posted that one because it would allow the district to post vacancies earlier than February 15th. And ideally as soon as this charter got approved so that we could start working. And that was a bit of the clarification on that one, though other waivers were around the calendar mostly and really narrowing that down. Is it okay with you guys if I share with them our alternative options? Is that okay? We are willing to just adopt the borough calendar with the understanding that it's going to be a real pain in the butt when we submit an amendment to the state to do this one once it's perfected. I get it. Probably shouldn't have said pain in the butt, but you know. And then the other option, which we don't love as much, but we would be willing to look at because we had educator feedback in support of this option, and again, our educators are important, was the Cordova calendar with 3-day school weeks. Or 4-day, sorry, I'm wanting to just shut it all down. 4-day, I miss my babies, you guys. I want to keep them at home. 4-day school weeks. Again, that's a little bit tricky too. But those are our alternative backup plans to the third backup plan. The perfect version, the balanced calendar, not the backup plan.
Follow up, Ms. Doolin.
Yeah, I do want to state a follow-up maybe comment, and then if I can ask one more question. Okay. I do hope that we can figure out how this calendar is, I think, incredibly attractive. And hearing that it's new and it's innovative and it's something that is different. It aligns with hunting and gathering, and it also and homesteading, and it was interesting to hear that it also aligns with military personnel, which I wasn't familiar with.
That wasn't intentional. It just
Yeah.
kind of worked out that way.
Yeah, and I think that they're definitely one of your target groups for growth. So that makes sense. Thank you so much. The additional question that I had, if I can pivot to SPED a little bit. So when, as part of your application on page 177 and 178 of the actual application, you asked that parents and guardians acknowledge that they won't have the same level of services, specialized services. And of course, that extends not only to SPED, and we see this this is consistent. This is a consistent barrier, I think, for every single charter in the entire state. And so, how do we serve all students? Students that might have some specialized needs. Now, we know that as a district, we would never place a SPED student intentionally at a charter. However, you will have, and we have about 22% of our student population is served within the SPED program. So if you had about 100 students, you could assume that you might have um, around that range. I think that would probably be the best way to plan. But there's a little bit of inconsistencies with asking parents to attest that they won't have those same services, but then at the same time also stating that we intentionally want to serve these students. So help me understand how to reconcile that.
I can address that because I put that in there. I don't want people to sign up for something that they don't know what they're getting. I want to have that conversation. I want whoever works here to have that conversation with people so we are not setting their kids up to fail. That's not right. We want to give kids what they need. We want the least restrictive environment, but we have to serve them. It can't just be minimum standards. I mean, when people are having a baby, people are like, oh, you're both healthy. That is minimum. It has to be meaningful. And sorry, I'm getting all like fired up. But I feel very passionately about that. We need families to know that we're going to do everything that we can, but we're going to need their help to do it. We have to collaborate. And we are humble enough to realize that we may not be the best place to serve your kid in certain circumstances. I did listen to you guys' board meeting recently, and I was like, oh, they're talking about just that. But it's a very real thing, and I do not envy you guys for having to deal with that. Sam can speak to it more than I can, though.
So I haven't really spoken with you guys about this too much, but I do believe this was a previous conversation we may have had early on. And I'm just going to throw this out there. With our lack of nurses in the school, I know we went to having nurse aides with somebody at the district level overseeing that. Prior to the school closing, we had a special education supervisor, somebody who had the credentials for that, but they also had an aide in the classroom that was trained to work with kids and make sure that those ILPs were being serviced according to the law. I don't see why maybe that similar model could be worked out here as well, where we have a special ed aide under the direction of somebody at the district level who has the credentials to be the special ed personnel overseeing that, which would reduce costs, but would also keep us within the bounds of legal requirements for those ILPs.
Okay, we're going to go to Ms. Hull here in a moment, but I do want to note that it is 8:21 p.m., and so I want to just quickly remind board members to try and keep questions short and to the point. Also to the ABC, if you could make your answers as concise as possible so we can get more questions in, be appreciated. Ms. Hull.
Thank you. So my question is about the calendar. With early out happening every Friday, how would that impact the 180 days of instruction?
Again, that is something that is a little beyond my wheelhouse, but we aligned it with what the other charters in the area have been doing. And we also recognized that we were asking a lot of our teachers, they needed more time. It was my understanding in my deep dive in policy that there is a certain hour in the day, and I could be totally wrong, that they have to get to for that to be counted as a full day, even if they leave at that point. I could be wrong. Please correct me if I am. So that was our assumption, that the early out that was happening that day was set to that time. If that is not the case, we're planning to have kids there till 5 anyway. That would be a very minor and simple change to fix.
Thank you.
Mr. Dorn.
I don't know whether administration wanted to respond informationally.
We could respond to that. Yeah. So a minimum school day for 3rd through 12th grade is 5 hours, and I believe K3 is 4.5 hours. You do need to subtract the lunch period from that, and so if you have a half-hour lunch, it'd be 5.5 hours, and vice versa. But, yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Meinert, and thank you, Mr. Doran, for giving Dr. Meinert the opportunity. Mr. Doran.
Okay, let me go to the lottery, the admissions piece for clarification. It does present some real concerns to me. And you raised the question, what's legally in our state, not the federal guidelines, as I believe that's all they are, but in our state. But just practically speaking, and especially with the listing of days, if you are not full, you don't need any prioritization or tiers. If it gets full going through those days, and then you open a lottery, there's not a lottery. It's not an open lottery. So my understanding is there needs to be an ounce of open lottery. So my concern is within there, I don't think it passes muster. And I guess that's more the observation. Maybe it's more an observation rather than a question, but you're welcome to respond to that if I understand it correctly.
Could I ask a question?
Sure.
Would it, if we capped the number of students that can enroll on those days? We are a low tech bunch. We did days because that just seems easier, and it doesn't seem like the system that is in place with the borough right now really accommodates what we're doing. Just a thought. Would it make it ethical and legal at all the levels if we capped how many people can come out and sign up? It's going to be like crazy shopping day sales to get in the door, but we could do that if it's half the class is eligible for that and everybody else goes to the lottery. I think that's still fair.
Okay.
But again,
So-
that is something that we anticipated being an issue for and came up with some alternative solutions because we didn't want to bring you guys problems. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And maybe that's something that the next meeting the administration could directly address, because I think there are some real questions about that. And if there's a pre-sign up, again, my real concern is you're not doing a lottery. Then other an informational one. Alaska STEP is referenced as using that for improvement, plan of improvement. It's on page 14 of the application. I am very familiar with it. We were one of the first districts in the state to pilot it, and our school was involved with that. I think it's a great deal, and I don't know whether this is more to administration, to them. What do you understand it to be? And I'm not sure it's necessarily supported by the state any longer. So.
That's outside of my scope on that one. I'm just going to graciously say, I don't know. I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay, maybe pulled out of another previous charter that when it was in operation. Could I do one more in curriculum, or do you want me to wait?
Go ahead, Mr. Dorn.
Okay. Could you talk about the curriculum a bit? As I read through it, I was confused about what actually the curriculum you were using as your basic curriculum, whether it was something you're writing yourselves, whether it's something that you're really taking from taking the district curriculum, and when you talk about integrating STEAD projects, et cetera, Um, but then in the presentation, it was stated, or an earlier question, you are absolutely not adopting the district curriculum. So my question is, what curriculum? Because it is not in here. There is no, there are sample lessons, there are some backgrounds, but there's no real. I'm struggling to find what the basic curriculum you're using to integrate stuff into.
Can we pull up that slide? Or would it be easier if I just send it to you on an email? We have Calypso Farms as our thematic guideline. And then we actually have done lot of research with programs that are state aligned. If you look at the board there, and I will let Miss Christine speak to it. In order to honor our charter, we're not saying whoever our administrator is has to do these, but there has been a lot of research with highly suggested curriculum, not just materials, to be used here.
Okay, so that clarification, and again, I'm not trying to put on the spot, but this is one of the things that the state requires. You have a curriculum. Most of what's on that are materials. They're not a curriculum. And so I'm looking for the curriculum, and especially since you're talking about the integration into a curriculum, that connection, I guess I would be looking for better clarity on what that actually is.
Christine, I don't know if you can hear me.
Yeah, I can.
Could you speak to the information that you acquired today? Originally, we were under the impression we could not use the district curriculum because we can't afford it. And continuing the mission of research and gathering information, Christine went on a bit more into that today and got some more information. So I think she's the person you need to hear from about this part.
Yeah, so I think we went over that for math, we're leaning towards Singapore, the dimensions. For language arts, though, we've been dabbling in a few, and I've been contacting some companies. So those ones that are highlighted in yellow are the ones that I've contacted. Some have gotten back to me, some haven't. The one in red is out of our price range. So for the ones that I've contacted, the one that we were leaning towards is from Open Up Resources. That's a company, and I contacted them. They're more of a nonprofit. So they developed this curriculum and they've adapted it to Alaska standards. It's a newer curriculum. So the Bookworms is brand new. And then the EL education for K through 8th language arts. That one is pretty new. Let me pull up my notes here. It's new from, let's see, where is it? They developed the K through 5 back in 2017, and then the 6 through 8 back in 2019. They revamped the K through 5 in 2025, and they added a K through 2 skills block, which is your phonemic awareness and phonics, things like that. They developed that in 2024. So I contacted them and they went over the curriculum with me, sort of the structure of it, how it aligns with Alaska standards, and they have integrated the science of reading. You can pay for it. It's free for digital, but you can pay for the paper copies, and they're still getting the quote for me for that one. And then today, I did contact the district curriculum, Debbie White, who's in contact with the H&M or HMH for the Into Reading and Interliteracy. She is going to give us some samples, but also gave me your curriculum coordinator. And I talked to Mackenzie a little bit, and she did say that we could come down and look at the curriculum, but some of the curriculum that you might have left over, she said that we have to pay for our own, of course, and we are able to go down and take a look at it if we want. I'm still waiting on quotes from Debbie for the HMH, but we did it this way so we could do some more, we could do research, and everyone has their opinions, but we wanted to create like a spreadsheet with some quotes and some information that I've gathered. So whoever is leading, and we don't have to do it this way, we can have the APC come together and choose. We can vote on it and choose our final curriculum, but we were in the application, we put it that the principal or the lead teachers would choose the curriculum based on what we found was aligned and would present it to the APC to then vote on, because we wanted it to be more collaborative between all of us and maybe make it more community based. If community members wanted to come out and see what we were considering and what we were looking at, give some opinions on that. But we are very open to feedback on that, and that's just the core curriculum. We have some science ones that were donated, and I'm still looking. There's I know I do have some history ones that are more supplies. So we would be creating our history one that integrates into the curriculum.
Sorry, could I interrupt for a sec?
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, because I think I'm maybe my fault. I might be of misleading.
Oh, sorry.
What you've explained is really, really good, and I think it helps to do that. I am concerned when you've raised the question of the cost of the district curriculum, and if I'm wrong, Dr. Mina can throw a paper wad at me, but there is no cost for our curriculum. The issue and the distinction is the materials that support that curriculum. And that's the main thing that is on this list. Those are materials, not the curriculum. And so
Can I help answer that a little bit? Yeah, because I think this is a little bit of semantical problem we're dealing with here, because there's curriculum and then curriculum materials that support that guidance. And so they had spoken about this before, is wholesale adopting the district's curriculum and then choosing curriculum materials that fill the mission of the STEAD school. Does that help answer?
yes,
question?
but okay, and that's the clarification, because it was said you absolutely were not adopting the school curriculum.
Image, I think is
No,
which
that's
is the
materials. No,
Exactly.
that's
I
materials.
think
It's
that's
not
where
the
the
curriculum.
confusion is. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
And it's often, even among educators, we get confused. We go back and forth.
Right. Yeah. So
But-
the curriculum itself is
Right.
adopting
So what I really liked, for instance, you have Singapore math up here as one of the things. I'm familiar with that. That's something that could adopt, that helps to implement what our district curriculum is. You wouldn't have to write a new curriculum. But so that distinction. So thanks for letting me ask the question. I know it can be confusing, and thanks for the, but also going through how you've looked at a lot of the things. But again, those are the materials you're looking at too. So I'd still be looking for then what is the curriculum you're going to have? Either and that we could see that, not know the materials that are going to support that.
Right.
Is important, but know what the curriculum is. What are you teaching out of that? So, if that helps.
And yes, we are going to use the district's curriculum as the guidelines for whatever curricula we purchase. Did I say that right? Okay. So your curriculum, our materials.
Okay, thank you. Put me back in the queue.
Next, I have Miss Maple.
This one's an actual question, not a hypothetical concept. Looking at your budget, I the budget the updated one. Um, I noticed that the first two certificated teachers listed are two categories. There's the essentially there's 2.5 lead teachers, 2.5 positions that are qualified with that lead teacher. So I'm wondering what that is expected to look like. And also, I'll just throw them both in together. And also, if the idea is for Sam or whoever, or I'm sorry, Mr. Barney or whoever is in the position in the if one of those teachers would be continuing to support best students and also serving as a lead, or if the expectation would be that there's a hub and there's a best teacher at the hub, and then these 2.5 leads are, or the rest of the teachers are employed by the charter.
Double clicked the button, turned it off for a second. Okay. So the best homeschool hub would have they would still have their own full-time teacher. Um, our lead teachers or head teachers versus a principal administrator, the reason we thought if we end up with head teachers, dual roles, doing administrative work and having a full load of classes, that's a lot. So if we split that role up, it would be sort of like a principal, vice principal, assistant principal, only in this we would have a head teacher, a team of head teachers, right? Like you have a team of administrators at a high school. We would have a team of head teachers at our charter school. That way they can share those administrative roles to kind of help lighten their load so they could focus on the students, which is what our main goal is students.
Follow up, Ms. Maple?
Is that a model that you have seen other charter schools elsewhere do, or is this a conceptually new idea?
This is a brand new, innovative idea. We are a group of parents, not educators. We've had some guidance from educators, but this is just what parents, which is what we are, think will work well in a school, especially a school like ours.
If I can respond, the conceptually it makes the idea that one person having all of those administrative burdens and also being a classroom teacher to make it work, to not have a principal, to lower costs. I definitely understand it conceptually as the director of a 13 full-time person agency. It gives me pause as to when issues arise, it's so important to have a decision maker. And so I wonder what that would look like when it comes to the really hard stuff, what it looks like to run a building full of kids and adults without there being a specific person in charge.
We hear you on that. And so that's one of the waivers we asked for was the waiver that allows us to compensate that team for their work. And we really thought about that too. And it didn't seem, I'm just going to go with the heavy, moral to give a teacher an entire classroom and then ask them to do that too. And so that teacher would be primarily responsible for our homeschool thematic material and not a whole classroom. Does that, or was there another part to that? I'm sorry.
No, I was just curious about what thought had gone into that and how you landed there. Thank you.
Okay, noting the time, it's 8:42 p.m. and I did have a goal of getting out of here by 9 o'clock. I have Miss Carol Hubbard, then Miss Stulian, and Mr. Doran in the queue. So Miss Carol Hubbard.
Okay, I'll go quickly. On the budget that I have from October 20th, I'm going to point out for your reference that for, it says curriculum, I'm assuming you mean materials. So it's, if you have 100 students, it's $150 per student is what that 15,000 divides into. Then you have, sorry, added to emergency fund balance 10,000. And so I would propose that $100 per students for additional materials might be what that goes for. As far as the budget, like I'm looking at your materials cost and thinking these are pretty low numbers. Even if you buy, I'm not sure. I just will point out also that in the technology category, you have 30 refurbished laptops, which is fine for your 100 students. You go to 125 students and it's still the same lab, still the same amount. On the 125 students, though, you did not increase anything for materials, supplies. So I'm just looking at the kind of the numbers going, these don't match up exactly. So I'm a little, just want to point that out because $250 per student is not a lot of money for materials. And I think we just saw up on the screen where $193 was History Quest and Odyssey. And that's just the one that I just picked out because it had a number. Okay, the other thing I wanted to ask about was pre-K. I hear you talking about pre-K and I've seen it somewhere, but then I don't see it anywhere in the budget. I see K through 8 and I don't see any like teacher or aid for pre-K and I don't know who's paying for pre-K. Is that something that did we talk about that already? I feel like I don't, you did. And I missed it. I'm sorry. Okay. And so then I'm asking about the pre-K budget and the staff and the location. Where does that fit?
No, we talked about it. You did not. You weren't repeating yourself. The pre-K is integrated, and so we are reducing the number of kindergartners to accommodate for those students. And we get it. That's a financial hit for our charter, but they're important. So they will be piggybacking off of the same lessons that the kindergartners will and really rising to that occasion because I've seen them do it. And I think Sam can really speak to how that works too as well. Throw you under the bus there.
Yeah, we have a couple of local ladies that are just absolutely amazing when it comes to pre-KK right now. And mixing those two sets us up. Well, first of all, it helps with enrollment and continuing to recruit the pre-K, and then hopefully that they, integrate with our school and become part of that culture, and then they stay with us right through kindergarten and then all the way through. So it should be a net gain in the end.
Follow up, Ms. Carol Hood.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to clarify. So the 72, 73, 72, 72 students that make it that meet the need, that's your break-even point. No pre-Ks in that number.
No, that is just kindergarten through 8th grade students.
Thank you.
And if I could make a clarification on that, because I had mentioned when I was describing that slide that this was built in a conservative way. That number is actually misleading. That 75 figure, the number, if we were actually to shoot for the 100-student budget, which is at 1.3 million, that cost neutrality point is 60 students. And my understanding is that when the school had closed, it was above that number. So if we could just get back to that point or close to that point, we would be at cost neutrality. Sorry for the confusion on that. I realized I didn't actually put that 60 number in there because that 1.65 million, that's aimed at the 125 students. So I was trying to build it in a conservative way, but I think I just caused confusion by doing that.
Okay. I have Miss Julian and then Mr. Doran.
Thank you so much, Mr. White. You just opened up a really exciting conversation that I want to have, but it's also almost 9 o'clock p.m. and I'm like, cost neutrality. Let's start talking about that, because I think that when and if I might, and we don't need to have this huge conversation around it right now, but uh, no matter what, we're going to be investing potentially into an additional budget line item for the district, because we're going from 28 schools to 29 schools if we approve this charter. So the school itself may be cost neutral. However, there's still an additional cost to the district. And I'm just, is that a fair thing for me to say?
I
I
think
like
that's a
the
great
word
point. Oh,
self-sustaining.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
no, yeah, and I think that's the feedback that we had heard in previous meetings like this, that we listened into, and I think that the fact that that number is so low for this school, and the targets, which I think are realistic for the student enrollment at this school, su- exceed that, should exceed that quite easily. And so I think at that point, that's where the district will start to see. Um, I don't know that we have the numbers necessarily on what the district invests in order to get this school off the ground. Things that there's obviously costs there that I don't know that we have visibility into. But the idea is that that number is low, and we feel that we can exceed it. And actually, I don't know at what point would be truly cost neutral to the district, but if we had that, we might be able to get that number.
Okay. Um, if I may, President Burgess, I want to just quickly, before I finish asking questions, ask about Title One.
Go ahead, Miss Julian.
Okay, so previous, and I'm talking, and this is more because of the unique location. When we talk about Two Rivers, we're talking about a community that is very much far out. And thank you for showing it on the map, because it's a drive to get out there, it's a drive to get into town, it's a long school bus ride. So serving the people who live in that community, even if it's not a prioritized tiered system to lottery, this school will potentially be a draw for students or that live in that community. Previously, Two Rivers Elementary, when it was open, was a title school, and one of the things that comes with the title school are services that families who are lower income rely on, like free and reduced meals and things like that. And I just want, when I look at your budget, I'm not seeing how you're going to meet some of those needs, especially in regards to food security on an ongoing basis. And again, I also want to recognize that this is a barrier for almost every single charter school in our entire state. But because the community had a high concentration of students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, I just want you to maybe share a little bit about that, and how you plan to meet the community's needs.
Got this.
So I don't know if I can't hear myself, so I'm not sure if this is working or not. So charter schools, now I'm not an expert on Title One, but I do know charter schools are eligible to receive Title One funds. They are distributed by the district, but Title One funds are charters are eligible to receive those funds. As far as nutrition services, to cut costs but still be able to provide nutritious meals to our lower income students, we plan to do the cold lunches, because teachers can then serve their students themselves, and we don't have to have the big expensive ovens for the kitchen or um, someone from nutrition services, you know, at the school. So we do plan to still service and have those same students.
It is in our budget that we have budgeted to pay for that cross training for our educators as well to fill that nutrition piece. Um, I did reach out to Nutrition Services. They told us that there is nothing prohibiting our parents, should they want to volunteer, from getting that training as well. Our nonprofit could offset the cost to that for families that can't afford it. In the extra binder that we gave President Burgess, there's a little bit more on some nutrition things that we have in place. Miss Caitlin can speak to one of those. She actually made some calls too about the nutrition, the fruits and such.
So when I did work at Two Rivers, I was the main contact for the FFVP program, and I reached out just to see if we would still qualify. He did let me know. Well, he also reached out to the state representatives, and he learned that it's based off of the previous year's free and reduced lunch eligibility. So for this first year coming up, we would not qualify for the FFVP program, but for the next year we would, as long as we participated in the district's free and reduced lunch program, which is our plan to use nutrition services, but only for their cold lunch products, which they do have a few. Last year they had like a salmon dip and a couple interesting things. Like the charcuterie board was a hot one.
I would like to add a little bit to that if it's okay. Where's my notes? Where'd my notes go? Yes. Okay. So part of our orientation enrollment days was so that we could have different tables set up on those days. Like we would have one for the nutrition services, and then we could direct families from one area to another. If you need nutrition services, please fill out this form for reduced price and free lunch. That way we are still reaching all the families, right? We had also talked about doing farm to table. We would love to do that. We would hope to start doing farm to table maybe in the beginning, maybe twice a month, every 2 weeks, maybe we'll do farm to table. But our goal is to eventually get it to once a week, or maybe, and then maybe even every day. But growth. You start small. You start with the seed and let it grow. So we do have plans for nutrition.
I do think it's important to add to utilizing our clubs, and our hydroponics program would be essential in providing food as well. We could utilize using Cooking Club to have these students kind of help create these school meals that we could offer. And then also with our deep water culture system that's already there, ready to be started and ran, could easily feed salads and greens and other different recipe items, herbs and stuff for making like a pesto or certain things too, could help with those farm to table meals.
Okay, Mr. Doran, bring us home.
Oh, I had my mic off. It was okay. So, okay, well, a couple of quick things. One, several times it's been mentioned you would respond to individual board members by email or stuff like that. And Mr. Burgess probably, oops. And Mr. Burgess might have already mentioned this, but if you do want to respond to things or add other things, that should go through Ms. Richardson, and then it would be shared with the whole board, and then it's public documents. So I wanted to go back for a moment to the head teacher conversation. Thank you for asking the question. It was one of mine because I didn't see it in the budget, whether you were sharing time or something. I will say that is, we have had that several times in our district. And also I was a principal with teaching duties, and head teachers are very common, and principal teachers are very common in the village schools, which are not much difference in size. I did really like that if you're looking at the compensation, it's either time trade-off. I will admit it's a big job, uh, but certainly as a model that's around, or that you do a bonus. Some places have done that for extra time. Um, the um, I'm glad you looked at or mentioned about nutrition services. I had flagged that in your on page 12 of your handbook, um, which also says it's your current Title I school, which would be inaccurate. And you explained a little bit more about you're using cold lunches. It's not the full nutrition services and stuff. So some updates there. Question in terms of budget and when you talk about the building facility, the cost factor, and this may be a combination from you and from administration, one that we have the available space to rent, we are interested in doing it, what is the cost to the district? I know your proposal is 100,000. I don't know how realistic that is. And one of the things when I look at the budget as a whole, there's a number and a title, but not really an explanation of how you arrived at that. And I would look for better clarification, fleshing that out so we know how realistic it is. You know, that's a gap that I see, to know whether you can really do it for next 10 years. So that's, so my question really is, and whether it's answered now or however, that, whether that $100,000 is actually a realistic dollar amount. So,
I don't know if I have the answer to your question, but I do have something to say about your question. So we did the $100,000 building lease because we would be sharing that space with Best. And we based that off of the numbers that we were given for the lease agreement with, I believe it was Effie Cochran. And I want to say their lease was 278, I believe.
yeah, close enough.
Okay. And our school is half the size of Effie. And since the Best Homeschool Hub will be also utilizing that space, we tried to do the budget for that lease as fair as we could based off of the lease for Effie Cochran, which is, like I said, twice the size of our school. So in our we're not CPAs.
Right.
So to us that number made sense. But I mean, we're open to negotiation. So
May I add? We also wanted to make sure that we shared services. So we added a custodian, even though Best is already paying for one. We also put in a budget for snow removal. We contacted who is currently doing it, and he estimated it at about 10,000 for the year, including spring. And so we put 6,000 down, a little bit higher than half. So we wanted to make sure that we added in some services that we would also be sharing with Best, because we know we didn't, the 100, it's not exactly half of like Effie Cochran's, but we wanted to add some extra things to make sure that those were covered.
Okay. Thank you. That's really helpful to me. I mean, it's my question of how did you arrive at your numbers? My question then will be, and it'll be to the district for their response next week. They can check it. Is FE is a whole different building to Rivers, so we need to look at what's the cost of operating that building with 100 students there, and to come to that. So, but you helped me in understanding how you got to the 100,000 figure. My I'll leave it as a question that we really need to look and see whether that's how accurate that is or in the ballpark.
May I speak to it just really quick? I did pull the previous year budgets. Obviously, I couldn't pull that data because it's now grouped into best funding for this year. It was 22,000, I believe, for utilities the last time it was opened as a fully functioning school. Obviously, inflation, we went 25 for that utilities portion, so that we accounted for about a 1%-ish increase in utility rates. 75,000, 50 of that was around what the maintenance seemed to be indicated on the building from prior years in the past. And so that leaves another 25. I don't know the legalities of us giving extra with it being a public sector building, but we want to build some contingency or some cushion into that budget for the district. So if there's a whoopsie, at least we didn't leave you guys high and dry. There's a $25,000 flex balance in there to account for that inflation and increased expenditures as much as we could and still make the numbers work.
Okay, thank you for that explanation. I'll probably stop there. I've lots of areas that I could, but I do appreciate your the ideas. You've put some new ideas on the table, options that we might be open for conversation, etc. Um, and um, and your willingness to get us additional information and stuff as we go through our conversations to keep us informed, so that if there needs to be adjustments, they can be there by the time we have to make a decision on this as an application specifically. But we do have some I see some gaps that need to be filled in. So
And we'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have over the next couple of weeks when you're going through everything and making your decisions. I mean, just send us an email, a phone call, anything. We'll be happy to answer any further questions y'all may have.
I definitely recognize that it was something that we tried to be aware of, that 200-page limit for when we send this to state. So we have some things that we have retained that might explain this a little farther in our various files that we have put to the side for the staff or whoever will occupy this building. We're happy to share that too. It might provide some clarification.
Okay. It is now 9:06 p.m., so I think we're going to try to wrap this up. Mr. Doran, final thoughts?
yeah, final, because it's one that it came up quite a bit. The military, the attraction to the military for out in that area in some ways is fascinating, because of the rotations that happen and that turnover, but also what your conversations are and some of you are personally involved with that. One of the borough issues has been having housing for military to retire here. And we have an awful lot of people in our community who are retired military that stayed here. So I guess I don't have so much of a question. If there's something that you might inform us a little bit better on in that, especially with the turnover, people might come for 3 years. They want that lifestyle. And maybe the other piece, we know, if you have an insight to it, that a lot of military have gone to homeschool because of those rotations and continuity from wherever they are in the world, but how that feeds into your ideas.
Okay, so there's multiple reasons that military choose to homeschool, and everyone assumes it's because of the rotations and the constant moving around. That is not true. Military families homeschool because public schools don't align with our values. That is something I've seen in my own family and many, many families that I've been associated with over the past few decades of being affiliated with the military. Um, the appeal of Two Rivers and Alaska, it's someone told me many, many years ago, if you're ever stationed in Alaska and you move away, you will always want to come back. They did not tell me a lie when they said that. My husband and I, and many other families, are the same as us. We moved here 3 years ago under the idea that we're going to submerge ourselves in Alaska for 3 years and then leave. My husband's going to ETS from the Army next year. He's joining the Army Reserves here in Alaska. So we can stay here and not move because Big Army wouldn't let him extend. We've had at least 4 families in Two Rivers that extended several times so they could stay in Two Rivers. But then with the commute that their kids are having to do to Weller now, they've chosen to not extend this time, and they are going to PCS at the end of this school year. So I don't know if that gave you any insight or not.
Thank you. It does give me some more insight into it.
Okay, thank you. Because I gave Mr. Doran that opportunity, I will say, call out to other board members if you want to get in with some final thoughts here, final comments. Seeing none, I'll just ask Ms. Hull for confirmation.
I hear you.
Okay, thank you. So I just want to I want to say thank you to the Two Rivers APC for this presentation and for all of the hard work that you put into this. I can tell that you've really done a lot of work, a lot of research, and you've put a lot of passion into this. And I truly appreciate that. I also want to thank you for starting out at the very beginning of your presentation, acknowledging the positive intent of everyone in this room. I really, truly appreciate that. That's a very, it shows me that there's truly a collaborative intent here. And so thank you for that. And we see your positive intent as well. So appreciate you. Just reminding everyone that we will be hearing from administration about this charter application in 1 week on November 10th. So board members, it would be helpful, of course, to get any questions you have for administration to them as soon as possible and ahead of the meeting if at all possible. So with that, thank you all, and we are adjourned.